All right, we are back with night 3 of the Republican National Convention. Well, let's see if their audio is going to be bad again this time.
Before the shots fired at Concord,
Yeah, their audio stinks
men
again.
and women of remarkable character and fortitude. An extraordinary spirit fueled the dreams they held. That spirit lived on to win liberty in the Revolution. It emboldened the Underground Railroads. It strengthened
Let's
the
see
brave
if we can.
souls at Normandy. It endured those who gallantly fought the spread of communism. And on 9/11, that same spirit was found in the men and women storming the gates of death.
We are going to full screen this one.
Lives in the presence of tyranny, disaster. It is stronger than any virus. Yet there are those who condemn our heroes, seek to erase history and deconstruct the American ideal.
Nobody is condemning
America
heroes.
into something it was never intended to be. But the spirit of heroism stands in the breach. It lives in the heart. It breathes in the soul. And is woven into the courageous fabric
See, I
of
think I might
Americans
have 2 streams going on.
like you. It preserves liberty when others are in need.
Yep, there's me and my wife. There you go.
Join us tonight. Dream heroic dreams. Celebrate America.
All right.
Land of
For
the
some
free.
reason, the Republican live stream is not very good at all. So here we go. Night 3, where they're already going to start with a whole bunch of crap.
Washington, D.C. Welcome to the 2020 Republican National Convention. Tonight, celebrating America as the land of heroes.
You know, it'd be really heroic, America, voting Donald Trump out of office. That's what would be really heroic. Let's do that. How about them apples?
Lord, Almighty God, we come before you this evening and pray for your divine protection over our brothers and sisters in the path of storms along our Gulf Coast. You are our rock and our shelter in the midst of the storms of life. You are the God who commands the winds and the waves, and we pray that you will provide refuge to our people. O Lord, you have granted us certain natural rights, such as the right to speak freely, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, as well as religious freedom, the right to assemble, and the right to self-defense. Only in America have these God-given rights so flourished and been categorized as belonging to the people, embodying the very essence of our government. Father, we pray that this outlook and mindset, this form of government continues, as has been our history, especially now when, to our horror, it is being challenged. And so we pray that God gives strength and health to our president, who has splendidly demonstrated daily his determination to defend and maintain the God-given rights of our citizens.
Where do you find that in the Torah? As somebody who has, I've
and in our
try not to
declaration,
interrupt prayer, but
eloquently passed down
somebody's
through
raised
our
Jewish.
Judeo-Christian tradition.
There's no such thing as Judeo-Christian tradition. Judaism and Christianity are two completely separate religions. And many times Christians persecuted Jews, so there's no thing about Judeo-Christian. It's a myth.
And these divine gifts, may God protect him. May God bless all those in government and among our citizens who seek to honor, defend, and preserve our heritage.
Wait, only the citizens that want to honor the heritage? What heritage is that?
In a providential moment. Like the revelation at Sinai, it was the moment when the generations we are compelled to resurrect and give rebirth to our providential beginning, to renew our present days with the exuberance of those founding days. Perhaps that is what is meant when we say, "Make America great again." We pledge to vigilantly protect and tend the garden so as to imbibe its blessed fruits. May God continue to
Remember what Adam and Eve happened to Adam and Eve when they ate the fruit in the garden? I don't know if I like that
nation.
metaphor there, Rabbi.
And let us say, Amen.
Wow. I mean,
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. I'm Governor Kristi Noem of South Dakota.
not
I'm
that
here
woman.
today because I believe America is an exceptional nation, founded on three principles: equality, freedom, and opportunity. But today, our founding principles are under attack. This year, the choice for Americans is between a man who values these ideals and all that can be built because of them, and a man
Joe
who
Biden.
isn't guided by these ideals, and coincidentally, has built nothing. Remember, America's battle for independence and fight for self-governance
Donald Trump built
was
things
something
up to
that had
tear
never
them
been done
down
before.
and cash them out and
Men
get all
of
the
great
personal profit he
intellect and
can.
wisdom,
To
like
hell with
James
everyone else.
Madison,
That's
the
Donald
father
Trump.
of our Constitution, hoped our constitutional republic would last for ages, mitigate the problems that would naturally arise from political factions, and prevent tyranny. Madison also authored much of the Bill of Rights because he understood the natural tendency of government
Look
to
back at the
increasingly
Bill
encroach
of
on the
Rights,
people's
which I
consent.
wrote. See, if you
And
watched
thus,
the Hamilton
our
musical,
freedom.
you'd know that was a
He
fact.
urged his colleagues to adopt these amendments to enshrine in our Constitution the ideals laid out in the Declaration of Independence: that all power comes from the people, that the government is created and ought to be exercised for the benefit of the people. Our Constitution guarantees the right to speak, to assemble, and to worship, the right to arm ourselves as a counterbalance to a standing army, and the right to a fair and equitable criminal justice system. We must fight to protect these foundational rights from government interference and indifference. America is unique in the world. Government's power at all levels is limited to the confines of our Constitution, which protects our God-given liberties and
What's up,
civil
Aquatic?
rights.
Welcome
We
back
are
to the
not
chat.
and will not be the subjects of an elite class of so-called experts.
Yes,
We,
Trump
the
did.
people,
Was
are
it
the
a
government.
law that he signed? That was a
Now,
law
at
or
times,
executive order
our
that he
country has
did
struggled to live up to our founding
set it up
principles.
for
Another great
10 years of
American,
funding. Yeah, I
Abraham
mean,
Lincoln,
look,
knew that struggle
there's a
better
couple
than
of
anybody.
things that I could look at that Donald
When
Trump
he
did and
was
say,
just
okay,
28
that's
years
fine.
old, Honest Abe
But there's other things
saw
that he's done
wild
that's
and
not.
furious passions
That-
worse than savage
And
mobs, he said.
one of the complaints that was
taking
made,
the
I
place
think,
of
about
reasoned judgment.
those, that
He
funding
was
that he gave to
alarmed by the
HBCUs,
increasing disregard for
the
the rule of
permanent
law
funding, at least
throughout
for
the
10
country.
years, is
He was
that
concerned for the people that
some
had seen their property
work
destroyed,
requirements
their
or some
families attacked,
work
and
study
their lives threatened
funding
or
went
even
away,
taken
which
away.
kind of offset some
These
of that
good
help.
people were becoming
So,
tired of and disgusted
again,
with a
welcome
government
to
that
everybody
offered them
joining
no
me on
protection. Sound
the.
familiar?
We got 3 concurrent viewers already.
It took
It's awesome to hear.
244 years
Please
to
remember to
build this
subscribe to
great
the channel.
nation, flaws
Like the
and
video,
all.
share it.
But we stand to lose
Well,
it
join
in a
us in the
tiny
chat,
fraction
leave
of that
comments.
time if we continue down the path taken by the Democrats and their radical
mean,
supporters.
He's
From
mostly
Seattle
bad.
and Portland to
Aquatic-
Washington and
Aquatic-
New York.
I'm
Democrat
cool as long
run
as we can
cities
agree he's
across
not
this country are
all
being
bad.
overrun by
Okay, he's not
violent
all
mobs.
bad, but he's
The
like
violence is
95%
rampant.
bad.
There's looting, chaos, destruction, and murder. People that can afford to flee have fled, but the people that can't, good, hardworking Americans, are left to fend for themselves. The Republican Party's commitment to individual rights and self-government is as necessary today as it was in 1860
Unfortunately,
when we won
the
our first presidential election. Our party respects
right
individuals
to-
based on who they are. We don't divide people based on their beliefs or their roots.
Or you do.
We don't shun
Absolutely you
people who
do.
think
You
for
try and block black
themselves.
voters, and you've had people
We respect
admitted to
everyone
blocking black
equally under the
votes, black voters
Constitution.
from voting.
And we treat them as
Repeatedly.
Martin Luther
It's been
King
on the
Jr.
record. Even the
according
Daily
to
Show
the
got one of
content
y'all to
their
admit it
character,
on their
not
TV
the
show.
color of their skin. In just 4 years, President Trump has lifted people of all races and backgrounds out of poverty. He shrunk government. He put money back into the pockets of hardworking, ordinary Americans. He has advanced religious liberty. He protected the Second Amendment. You can look back 50 years.
But he was
You
trying
won't
to
find anyone
nuke
that has surpassed
the Affordable
President
Care
Trump's
Act,
success on these
which
4 issues alone.
will
History
make health
chooses
insurance
its
worse.
heroes for the time in which they live. At our founding, Madison was one of the chosen. When the nation's very existence was challenged, it was Lincoln's turn. Thanks to these men, America is a land of hope. Their examples have been repeated in countless ways by simple Americans following their conscience. But there is another American hero to be recognized, and that is the common American. This is who President
I would have
Trump
died if he
is
would have
fighting
said Donald
for.
Trump was the common
He's fighting
hero.
for you.
I used to work for an insurance company. My health plan, and when I worked for the insurance company, got better under the Affordable Care Act. But there are businesses that have abused some of the
I'm Scott Dane.
loopholes.
I represent loggers and truckers in Minnesota.
Make logging great
but I also
again.
represent a way of life. Logging's been a part of the
Mulga?
great American
I
story.
think
from the
Mulga rolls
beginning.
off the tongue.
In fact, if you go to the Capitol Rotunda and look up, you can see loggers on one of the panels. New England settlers carving out a new world from the wilderness. But logging is the most dangerous job in the country. But we embrace that risk because we know America was built by strong people building things together. America needs us to keep building, and we can't wait to be a part of it. But the last
Lovely
time
to
Joe
spill water
Biden
on
was in the
myself.
White House, Minnesota lost nearly half of its mills, thousands of jobs, and experienced nearly a decade of decline. It was a similar story in other parts of the country. The administration just didn't seem to care. In 47 years in Washington,
I mean,
Joe Biden hasn't done anything
Was
for
there
the
no
timber
demand
industry.
for?
When plants
what-
closed in Duluth,
was there-
Sartell, Cook,
Was there no
and
demand for
Bemidji,
your product?
they
Were
were
people
just
not
numbers on a
building
paper to the Obama
houses?
Biden administration.
Like using
To me,
wood?
they were people
Like, I don't know.
and jobs and families. Under Obama Biden, radical environmentalists were allowed to kill the forests. Wildfire after wildfire shows the consequences. Managed forests, the kind
Environmentalists
my people work in, are healthy
are
forests.
responsible
Under President
for
Trump, we've
wildfires?
seen a new recognition of the
How
value
is that?
of forest management in reducing wildfires. And we've seen new support
Okay,
for
Aquatic
our way of
asks,
life.
what was my deductible?
Where a strong
Immediately after the
back and a strong
Affordable Care Act, for the
work
first
ethic
couple of
can
years when I
build
was
a
working at
strong
that
middle
company,
class.
my deductible, I
build
chose a
families
high
where
deductible
we
plan
were
specifically
raised and
because
stand by communities
I
that
did the
stood
math
by
on it,
us.
and it turned out that I would spend
We
less
want
money
that way
using
of
that
life
one than the
available
other
for the
one.
next generation,
But there was three
and we want
options,
that
and one of them
forest
was
there,
the
too.
silver plan had a
President
very
Trump,
low, like a
Thank
$500,
you for helping
$1,000
us do just
deductible
that.
with some co-pays with some maximum out of pockets. Now it's ridiculous. Now my deductible is absolutely ridiculous. But that's because people have, the insurance companies figured out the formula where you have to have medical loss ratio, and there's not restrictions on cost sharing that go too. The restrictions don't go far enough.
Hi.
Oh God, her.
I'm U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn.
Marsha,
from
Marsha,
Tennessee.
Marsha.
America is a nation of heroes. In times of difficulty, we're reminded that they're all around us. They're in the line with us at the grocery store, in the pew with us at church. They're the regular Americans who step up to volunteer and serve when we need them most. They've stood at the forefront throughout this pandemic. The emergency room nurses who go back shift after shift. The medical researchers developing a vaccine and therapies to combat what the Chinese Communist regime unleashed on the world. Cookville's Double Springs Church of Christ members.
There's only a certain
lifting
amount
our
of blame you
country
can
up
put
in
on China.
prayer and providing for those impacted by
The
tragedy.
amount of blame that they put on China,
But tonight,
ignoring whatever
I want
bigotry
to
may or
talk
may not
to
exist.
you
I believe it
about
does, but
another
whatever. Even
kind
if you
of
disagree,
hero.
there's a certain
The kind
responsibility that you have to
Democrats
say,
don't
okay,
recognize because
now that we recognize
they
that it's here,
don't
we need to do
fit
things
into their
here. And I'm going to have
narrative.
another rant about
I'm
this
talking
after
about
this
the
video
heroes of our law
about that,
enforcement and
about what
armed
Trump has done
services.
today, what has happened today
Leftists
with the
try to turn
CDC.
them into villains. They want to
Aquatic, unless you got
cancel
sick, then
them.
it's balanced. I'm not exactly
here to
sure
tell
what you're
you
saying by that.
These heroes can't be canceled. Tennessee is full of them. After all, we're the volunteer state. My dad served in the Army in World War II. When he came home, he put on another uniform and for 30 years volunteered to help our underfunded Sheriff's Department. I'm reminded of him whenever I see compassion and selflessness in others. When I see law enforcement officers put their lives on the line every single day to keep our communities safe.
When I see law enforcement officers doing the jobs that they're supposed to be doing, then it's good. The hatred thrown at law enforcement is because you have people getting shot in the back. Another one happened in Louisiana. I don't know how much nationwide you're hearing about the one in Louisiana. You're hearing about the one in Kenosha. 7 shots in the back. And that's not good policing.
The brave men and women of the 101st Airborne Division at Fort Campbell. The common thread between them is a deep-seated desire to serve a cause larger than themselves. They don't believe their country owes them anything. They believe they owe their country and their fellow man. As hard as Democrats try, they can't cancel our heroes. They can't contest their bravery. And
no one's trying to cancel or contest heroes or bravery. We have a problem with corrupt police departments that allow this disproportionate murder of black people who are unarmed by cops.
To take away their tools to keep us safe. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and
at least you pronounced her name right.
Try to destroy these heroes because if there are no
the idea that Joe Biden wants to destroy heroes is ridiculous.
Can control us.
The heroes are government employees, police, firemen,
and abortion clinics open.
Police, firemen, military. They all work for the government. They're absurd.
Protest,
how absurd!
And looting in the streets. If the Democrats had their way,
aquatic, it is disproportionate.
They would keep you locked in your house until you become dependent on the government for everything. That sounds a lot like communist China to me. Maybe that's why Joe Biden is so soft on them. Why Nancy Pelosi says that China would prefer Joe Biden. Yep, I bet they would. But President Trump has stood up for our heroes every day. He stood by our law enforcement, our military.
All right, so we're going to pull this down here from Statista, this website. If you look at 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. So if you look at, you got 457 white people shot to death by police versus 223. 2018, you have 399 versus 209. So there's about, so in this case there was two white people killed for every black person killed, but white people are
Congressman Dan Crenshaw.
7 times more
in the fields of Helmand Province, Afghanistan.
7 times more of the population than black people, so that's 3.5 times more likely to be shot.
Bloodied to the medevac helicopter and survive. But he didn't. Dave Warson was killed 2 months later. He died a hero to this great country. Here's the truth about America. We are a country of heroes. I believe that. So should you. We are a people with a common set of ideals conceived in liberty. People that have sacrificed
unless you're gay
for our freedom and the freedom of others. That's something no other country ever, anywhere, can claim. Since 9/11, I've seen America's heroes up close. Some of them saved my life. Some of them saved many others' lives. Many of them never made it home. These heroes acted as if the whole struggle depended on them alone, as if any weakness on their part would be a reflection of the whole nation. That's called duty. And America has a long history of it. Our enemies fear us because Americans fight for good, and we know it. It gives us strength. When our heroes are trusted and equipped, then freedom prevails. The defeat of ISIS was the result of America believing in our heroes, our president having their backs and rebuilding our military so we'd have what we needed to finish the mission. The cowering of the Iranian regime and the restoration of the deterrence once lost is the result of America believing in her own might again. America's heroism isn't relegated.
Nobody
to
ever
battle.
questioned America's might.
Every single day we see
America's
them.
been the
We just
strongest
don't
nation on the
overlook
planet for how long now?
It's
Nothing has changed. That was true during Clinton, during Bush, during Reagan, during Obama, and during Trump.
It's the parent.
The idea that we're
We learned
somehow weaker
algebra
under
because there's no way
Democratic
to let your
presidents
kid fall
is a
behind
bunch
while
of
schools are
malarkey,
closed.
as Joe
There's the
Biden would
cop
say.
that gets spit on one day and will save a child's life the next. America is the country where the young military
Just leave that in the
wife of two
chat,
young
Aquatic.
children answers
Oh my
the
God.
unexpected knock at the door, looks the man in uniform in the eye, and even as her whole world comes crashing down, she stands up straight, she holds back tears, and takes care of her family, because she must. This is what heroism looks like. It's who we are. Nation of heroes. We need you now more than ever.
To vote for Joe
Remind
Biden.
ourselves what heroism really is. Heroism is self-sacrifice. It's not moralizing and lecturing over others when they disagree. Heroism is grace, not perpetual outrage. Heroism is rebuilding our communities, not destroying them. Heroism is renewing faith in the symbols that unite us, not tearing them down.
Which symbols unite us?
See,
I want to hear
America's a
which ones you
fabric,
believe unite us.
woven from the threads of history's best stories, best attributes, and greatest ideas.
Although, of
America's
course,
spirit
America was built
reflects
on the
the
backs of
oldest and
slavery
most
too,
important
but, you know,
virtues,
let's just
self-sacrifice, courage,
push that under
tolerance,
the
love of
rug.
country,
And let's
grace,
push under the rug the fact that
passion
people
for
want to
human
call
achievement.
Confederate soldiers heroes
We can
too.
decide right now
No.
that
Fought
American
against
greatness will
American
not be
citizens, you're not
rejected or
heroes.
squandered. As the American founding was grounded
Traitors.
in individual liberty, so will be our future. But if we are to rediscover our strength, then it must be an endeavor undertaken by each and every one of us. We must become the heroes that we so admire. America was built by them, and our future will be protected by them. It will be protected by you. So God bless America.
Is Mitch McConnell or Lindsey Graham going to speak at this thing?
Good evening. I'm retired Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg. In 1967, at the age of 22, I volunteered to serve my country in Vietnam. From the jungles of Vietnam to the deserts of Iraq, I have gone where my nation asked. I have borne witness to soldiers' last moments on earth, their lives spent in hope and promise of a better future for all Americans. I was in the Pentagon on September 11th, 2001. I lost friends there that day. In the years that followed, I watched my daughter, son, and son-in-law deploy to Afghanistan. I have looked into the eyes of my grandchildren as they said goodbye to their fathers and hugged them one last time. I lived service. I understand sacrifice. I know leadership. Over the past 3.5 years, I have witnessed every major foreign policy and national security decision by the president. I have been in the room where it happened. I saw only one agenda and one guiding question when tough calls had to be made. Is this decision right for America? When President Donald Trump took office, decades of failed foreign policy had crippled us. He faced wars without end in sight, creation of failed states like Libya and Syria, a past that allowed a terrorist caliphate to grow, and
A what?
leadership in Washington
Terrorist.
that allowed our military to atrophy while we spent trillions
The military
of dollars
wasn't
abroad
atrophying.
instead of investing at home. President Trump has
I mean,
reversed the
do people
decline
really
of our
believe this
military
crap?
and restructured our national security strategy. With historic investment and vision, our military is now better equipped, better resourced, and better manned than any military in the world.
And we were better resourced, better equipped, and better manned under Obama, under Bush, under Clinton, under Bush, under Reagan, Carter, everybody. Our military has been the best in the world for ages.
Took decisive action.
It doesn't
against the
change
Iranian
based off of
terrorist
who the
mastermind,
president is.
Qasem
Because the
Soleimani,
soldiers are the soldiers regardless of who the
man
president
responsible
is.
for deaths of hundreds of American servicemen.
You
in
know,
Iraq.
it seems very anti-military to suggest that somehow the military this is supposed to be a night of heroes, and you're talking about how the fact that the soldiers
NATO members
We're not as good under
have now
Obama?
increased their contributions over $100 billion.
I mean, I
this year.
don't usually want to curse on
And
these
NATO's
things,
Secretary
but
General
I'll
credits
just say go F yourself.
President Donald J. Trump. President Trump challenged and continues to challenge an ever increasingly provocative and militant China.
Aquatic, how
Make
was
no
the
mistake.
Army under Obama rough?
President
What
Trump
made
is
it
no
different? And were you under the
He wisely
were in the
rules
military
to
under
serve
other
when
presidents
required.
as well as Obama, or
It believes in seeking
to
peace
be able to see a difference?
instead of perpetual conflict. Just over a week ago, our president brokered a peace agreement between the United Arab Emirates and Israel
It's temporary. It's not
The first
permanent.
in the Middle East in over 25 years. And this week, Afghan negotiators, with help from American officials,
Afghani.
will start peace negotiations
appropriate way
between
to
the
say it.
Taliban and the Afghan government to end America's longest war. Ask yourself,
So you're negotiating with terrorists.
has this president
Is that what
kept
you're
his
saying?
promises
Did you just say they're negotiating with
Keep us out of
terrorists
needless
because the
conflicts
Taliban is
and to
are
pursue ending
terrorists?
wars without end? Has he defended your interests in renegotiating
what- okay.
trade deals?
Aquatic served under
previously
Bush and
hurt
Obama. What was
Americans
the
and our national
differences that you
security?
saw between the two administrations? I
fulfilled
want
his
to hear
commander-in-chief
that.
role
I want to know
by
'cause I didn't
decisively
serve, so I
going
don't know.
after our nation's enemies? You and I know the answer is yes. The choice is clear. This is the most important election of our lifetime.
Everyone is,
The
but
next 4 years
I've also said that this is
will decide
really
the course of our
the
country
case.
for decades to come. I am asking you to stand up and be counted, so we never have to look back and recall what it was once like in America, when men and women were free, our families were secure, and we had a president who served the people. God bless America. Thank you, and good night.
Dun, dun, dun. At least I'm not getting copyright violations over the course of this.
Good evening. My name is Tara Myers. Tonight, I am here as a wife and mother to share how education freedom has personally impacted my family, especially the life of my son Samuel. Before Samuel was even born, I was told his life wouldn't be worth living. When early tests revealed he had Down syndrome, our doctor encouraged me to terminate the pregnancy. He said, "If you do not, you will be burdening your life, your family, and your community." I knew my baby was a human being created by God, and that made him worthy of life. I am thankful that President Trump values the life of the unborn. When we went to register Samuel for kindergarten, we were told to just put him where he would be comfortable. Don't stress him out by trying to teach him. When we pushed for him to attend his neighborhood school with his
There's a
sisters,
claim that Donald
we
Trump
were
has
told,
paid for
"Just
8
go
separate
home
women to
and
have
let us do what we
abortions.
do."
However, this is
When
an
I inquired
unproven
about functional learning, I
allegation,
was told,
but
"This is all you get.
do we really
Like
believe
it
that
or
Donald
not."
Trump wouldn't want
Well, I
one of
did not
his
like it.
affair
One
partners to have an
size did
abortion
not
if he
fit
wound up
all.
being able to get
So,
pregnant?
I helped fight to pass legislation in Ohio for a special needs scholarship so that all students could choose the right program for their needs. I worked to start a new functional learning program at our local private school. Finally, Samuel had an appropriate place to learn. Last December, Samuel was invited to the White House to meet our president and share his thoughts on education freedom. He said, "School choice helped my dreams come true. My school taught me the way I learn best. I was able to fit in. I made many friends. I became a part of my community. My teachers helped me become the best I can be." President Trump shook my hand and said, "Wonderful job, Mom. Your son is amazing." Unlike the doctor who told me to end Samuel's life before it even began, President Trump did not dismiss my son. He showed Samuel he valued him and was proud of what he accomplished. President Trump gave Samuel an equal seat at the table. Tonight, I would like to extend my thanks to President Trump and his administration for their work towards making every student's dream of a meaningful education a reality, and for fighting to ensure every child in America has an equal seat at the table of education freedom and an equal opportunity in life. Thank you, and may God bless America.
I have really nothing negative to say about that, so there you go. You know, good for her for standing up for her child, and support her right to choose to have her child. Like, that's her right to believe that.
It all started at a tea party. 13 years before the American Civil War, civil unrest and division separated countrymen into two opposing camps. One determined to keep African American people enslaved, the other determined to see all people free. Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott felt the call to fight for that freedom when they were selected as delegates for an anti-slavery convention. But upon arrival, were told they could not speak or vote at the male-dominated event. On July 9, 1848, Mott, Stanton, and 3 other women met for tea. By the end of the day, they'd formed a coalition with the sole purpose of gaining the right for women to vote, so they in turn would be free to fight for the freedoms of others. Women across America united and formed activist groups working tirelessly to win the vote for American women. The unconquerable Susan B. Anthony became one of the most visible leaders of women's suffrage when, in 1872, she registered and voted for every Republican on the ballot. As punishment for her actions, she was arrested for illegal voting. At the request of Susan B. Anthony, Senator A.A. Sargent introduced the 19th Amendment in 1878.
He looks like the guy from
the Susan B. Anthony Amendment was submitted and defeated 4 times, but women continued to fight. Sojourner Truth and many other black suffragettes defied segregation, fighting for all women's voices to be heard and allowed to vote.
Except when women got the right to vote, black people also did not get the right to vote.
The Silent Sentinels quietly picketed the White House. Finally, when Republicans regained control of Congress, on August 26, 1920, the Equal Suffrage Amendment was signed into law. Women's suffrage movement took 72 years and would change the lives of women forever.
And the 1920s Republican Party is vastly different than the 2020 Republican Party because the party swapped.
President Trump granted a full pardon to Susan B. Anthony on the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment's ratification. Women's suffrage was born from a desire to fight for the freedom of others. Now, we, the great patriots of America, will band together once again. And with one unified voice, we will vote for freedom.
Oh, jeez. Her.
You may know
I'm gonna
me as
vomit.
a supporter of President Trump.
I know you as a racist
I'm here
birther
to share with you how he
and somebody who is like
both as
the
a new
perfect
mom
press secretary
and as
for
an
Donald
American
Trump.
with a pre-existing condition. When I was 21 years old, I got a call that changed my life. It was my doctor informing me that I had tested positive for the BRCA2 genetic mutation, a mutation that put my chances of breast cancer at 84%.
And thanks to the Affordable Care Act, you can get health care. Thank you, Barack Obama. Good night.
Preventative double mastectomy, removing her breast tissue, but protecting her from a disease that has taken far too many of our mothers, our sisters, our friends. In my family, 8 women alone were diagnosed with breast cancer, several in their young 20s. I now faced the same prospect. For nearly a decade, I was routinely at Moffitt Cancer Center, getting MRIs, ultrasounds, and necessary surveillance. During these visits, I crossed paths with brave women battling cancer and fighting through chemotherapy.
And because of the Affordable Care Act, you cannot be denied because of your pre-existing condition.
They are American heroes. On May 1st, 2018, I followed in my mother's footsteps, choosing to get a preventative mastectomy. I was scared. The night before, I fought back tears as I prepared to lose a piece of myself forever. But the next day, with my mom, dad, husband,
Your mammary glands do
and
not
Jesus
make you
Christ by
any
my
more or
side,
less racist than you already were, so you don't have to worry about it.
almost eliminating my chance of breast cancer, a decision I now celebrate. Breast reconstruction has advanced remarkably. While it is an individual's decision, my doctor and I chose a course of surgery.
Aquatic
that
Ice Cream
left me
protects
virtually
people if
unchanged.
that goes away.
But more
Well, why should it go away? It shouldn't go
I
away.
developed a
Donald Trump is
strength
fighting to make it
and
go
a
away.
confidence that I carry with me.
The Republican plan
one of my
on
most
for
difficult
pre-existing
times,
conditions is to shove people
I
into state-run
expected to have the
pools,
support
which
of
is
my family.
horrible.
But I had more support than I knew. As I came out of anesthesia, one of the first calls I received was from Ivanka Trump. As I recovered, my phone rang again. It was President Trump calling to check on me.
Well, I mean, both of you are
I was
birther kindreds in
blown
spirit.
away. Here was the leader of the free world caring about my circumstance. At the time, I had only met President Trump on a few occasions.
Because
But
you're a
now
birther,
I
and
know him
I'm assuming he
And I can
probably
tell
wants
you
to
that this president
grab you by the
stands
hoo-ha
Americans
too,
with
but you know.
pre-existing conditions. In fact, President Trump called me this morning. I spoke with him several times today, and he told me how proud he was of me for sharing this story. The same way President Trump has supported me, he supports you. I see it every day.
By trying to eliminate the Affordable Care
I've
Act.
heard him say the hardest part of his job is writing to loved ones of fallen soldiers.
But he does. He think that's why Trump made the executive order so he can own it. But he can't own it because it's the law of the land.
To crime in
The
the streets.
pre-existing condition
And I've
clause
watched him fight for
protections
Americans
or
who
restrictions
lost their jobs.
are in the Affordable
President
Care
Trump
Act. It's
fights for
because
the
of legislation
American
that
people
Barack
because he
Obama,
cares
President Barack
about
Obama got
stories
passed
like these.
that you cannot cover, you cannot deny coverage
remind
for
my
pre-existing
daughter-
conditions.
She's a beautiful, sweet little girl. And I choose to work for this president for her. When I look into
I mean,
my
there's no
baby's
accounting
eyes,
for taste
I see a new life.
for your support
miracle
for Trump, not your
for which
daughter.
I have a
Good for
solemn
you for loving your
responsibility
daughter.
to
Everyone should
protect.
love their children.
That means protecting America's future. A future President Trump will fight
But why would it
for.
be not law
Where
except
our
for Donald Trump
neighborhoods
trying to
are
overturn
protected,
it?
Where life is sacred.
Thank you, John McCain.
Where God is cherished, not taken out of our schools, removed from our pledge, and erased from our history.
Why was God added to the pledge?
want my
Should have never been
daughter
added in the first place.
To grow up
Render unto
in
Caesar, as they
President
say.
Donald J. Trump's America. Choosing to have a
Seems pretty
preventative
aquatic.
mastectomy
Seems pretty cool
was the
for
hardest decision
someone to eliminate
I
an
ever
entire
had to make.
piece of legislation meant to protect
but
people
supporting President Trump
just so you can claim that now
protect
you're the
my
person
daughter
protecting people's
and our
pre-existing
children's
condition
future
by
the
preventing
easiest.
pre-existing condition clauses from taking place. That seems to be the actions of somebody who is just so all about himself and not about anybody else. It's not genius, it's horrific. What else would he do?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Karen Pence.
Hello,
My
Karen
husband
Pence.
is Vice President Mike Pence.
Oh, it's Mother. Hello, Mother.
100 years
You've left your
ago today,
husband alone.
The 19th Amendment
Is there a
was
woman
adopted
nearby?
into the
Should
United
you be
States
afraid?
Constitution,
Is he afraid?
guaranteeing women the right to vote. Because of heroes like Susan B. Anthony and Lucy Stone, women today.
Yeah, he's a
like
narcissist.
our
That's the word I was looking
daughters,
for,
Audrey
Aquatic.
and
Narcissism.
and future generations will
He
have
is
their
a
voices
narcissist.
heard and their votes count. The
I guess you have
women's
to have at
suffrage
least a
movement
little bit of
was the
narcissism in
gateway
order to be
that
president,
led to women
to
having
believe
the
that you're
opportunities
good enough for
to
that
achieve
position.
monumental
But
milestones and
Ugh.
accomplish significant achievements in both civic and governmental roles. This evening, we look at heroes in our land. As Second Lady of the United States for the past 3.5 years, I have had the honor of meeting many heroes across this great country. The Pences are a military family. Our son Michael serves in the United States Marines, and our son-in-law Henry serves in the U.S. Navy. And one of my key initiatives is to elevate and encourage military spouses. These men and women, like our daughter Charlotte and our daughter-in-law Sarah, are the home front heroes. I have been privileged to hear so many stories of selfless support, volunteer spirit, and great contributions to the armed forces and our communities. You know, military spouses may experience frequent moves and job changes, periods of being a single parent while their loved one is deployed, all while exhibiting pride, strength, and determination, and being a part of something bigger than themselves. To all of the military spouses, thank you. President Trump and Vice President Pence have been supporting our United States Armed Forces, including our military families, on a significant scale.
I mean, the idea that Democrats don't is just
To
absurd.
educate military spouses about policy solutions that President Trump has promoted.
The best way that you could
real,
support the
tangible
troops is to
progress
not
in
send them into
military
needless
spouse
wars.
employment. I have been inspired to meet
And
heroes
as much as
like
Donald Trump has said that he's
Lisa
trying to pull us out of
Bradley and
Afghanistan,
Cameron Cruz.
we're still there, and I guarantee
These
you we'll still be there at
military
the end of
spouses
next 4
decided to
years
start their
if
own
he's
business,
reelected.
Our Riveter, named after the Rosie the Riveter campaign used to recruit women workers during
I mean, I don't
World
think
War
Aquatic
II.
still thinks it's a smart move.
Our
I don't think it's a
Riveter
smart move
makes
because it makes him look like a
handbags
fool, because why are you
designed and
doing something that's
manufactured
needless?
exclusively by
Everyone
military
pretty much
spouses.
mocked him for it
And
because they're
many
like,
of
why
those
did you need to
spouses
sign
live
that?
all over the
It's
country.
already the law.
They prepare and send their section of the bags to the company located in North Carolina, where the final product is assembled. Military spouse hero Jalon Hall Johnson in Billings, Montana, is a culinary artist who had dreamed of starting her own restaurant. Working with the Small Business Administration's Development Center, Jalon started her restaurant, The Sassy Biscuit, and she just opened a second restaurant in Dover, New Hampshire. And as the second lady,
Sassy
I've
Biscuits.
also been able to bring awareness to a form of therapy for our heroic veterans suffering from PTSD. Art therapy, facilitated by a professional art therapist, is especially effective with post-traumatic stress disorder. Master Gunnery Sergeant Chris Stowe, a Marine veteran I met in Tampa, who deployed for combat in Iraq and Afghanistan, said nothing had helped him deal with the trauma from his service in the Marines until he finally agreed to meet with the art therapist.
I mean, he
at
does have the
Walter
war
Reed
on.
Medical Center.
Aquatic says the first president of no
Chris
new
put
wars,
his art
though in a
therapy
while.
with saving
That's
his
because everyone's too
marriage
busy
and his
fighting the
life.
pandemic.
And Chris went on.
What
to
difference does it
establish
make
a
if it's
glassblowing workshop to
new or
help other
pre-existing?
vets. Many of our veteran heroes struggle as they transition back into civilian life, and sometimes the stress is too difficult to manage alone. A few weeks ago, I had the honor of speaking with some amazing Americans who answer the Veterans Crisis Line. One in particular, Sydney Morgan, especially impacted me. A veteran herself, Sydney said it is the highest honor of her life until they physically walk into a clinic to receive help they deserve, and she can pass their hand to someone ready to help. In these difficult times, we've all seen so many examples of everyday Americans reaching out a hand to those in need, those who, in humility, have considered others more important than themselves. We've seen healthcare workers, teachers, first responders, mental health providers, law enforcement officers, grocery and delivery workers, and farmers, and so many others, heroes all. 100 years ago, women
What was
secured
that?
the right to vote. So let's vote, America. Let's honor our heroes. Let's realize
It's typically conservative men that would say, like, well, didn't men give women the right to vote because they couldn't vote, so men had to be the ones that gave it to them? It's conservative men who would say that. But, you know, go on.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable
They're
rights.
endowed. Oh my.
But among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Oh, she's
Good evening.
speaking.
I'm Kellyanne Conway.
Bon voyage,
100
Kellyanne.
years ago, courageous warriors helped women secure
I can't.
the
That
right to
family
vote.
is just amazing.
This has
Just,
been a
I mean, that
century
should.
worth
I'm
celebrating.
surprised they're not going to have a
But
TV
also a
show.
reminder
I wouldn't
that
be
our
surprised if they
democracy
do
is
have a
young
TV
and
show
fragile.
called The
The
Conways.
leadership role
It just
can still seem novel.
reality show
Not
between
so for President Trump.
George
For decades, he
fighting
has
against
elevated
Trump,
women to
Kellyanne
senior
fighting for
positions
Trump,
in
and their
business
daughter.
and in government.
I forget her name
He
off the top of my
confides
head.
in and
Just
consults us,
fighting
respects
fighting
our
them both.
opinions, and insists that we are on equal footing with the men. President Trump helped me shatter a barrier in the world of politics by empowering me to manage his campaign to its successful conclusion. With the help of millions of Americans, our team defied the critics, the naysayers, the conventional wisdom, and we won. For many of us, women's empowerment is not a slogan. It comes not from strangers on social media or sanitized language in a corporate handbook. It comes from the everyday heroes who nurture us, who shape us, and who believe in us. I was raised in a household of all women. They were self-reliant and resilient. Their lives were not easy, but they never complained. Money was tight, but we had an abundance of what mattered most: family, faith, and freedom. I learned that in America, limited means does not make for limited dreams. The promise
Well, you
of
can have all the
America
dreams that you want.
belongs to us all.
It's a matter of being able to accomplish
This
them.
is a land
And
of inventors
that's
and
where privilege
innovators,
comes into play.
of entrepreneurs and educators, of pioneers and parents, each contributing to the success and the future of a great nation and her people. These everyday heroes have a champion in President Trump. The teacher who took extra time to help students adjust to months of virtual learning. The nurse who finished a 12-hour COVID shift and then took a brief break only to change her mask, gown, and gloves to do it all over again. The small business owner striving to reopen after the lockdown was lifted, and then again after her store was vandalized and looted. The single mom with 2 kids, 2 jobs, 2 commutes, who 10 years after that empty promise finally has health insurance. President Trump and Vice President
Finally
Pence
has health
have lifted
insurance.
Americans, provided them with dignity, opportunity, and results.
And that's why I'm quitting.
I have seen firsthand many times the president comforting and encouraging
Man.
a child who has lost a parent who has lost a child, a worker who lost his job, an adolescent who lost her way to drugs. Don't lose hope, he has told them, assuring them
Well, the
that
game is called blow. They blow this ball around.
I just loaded another
always
website.
will be people who have far
The
more
game
than
is called Blow. Wonderful,
Our
thank you.
responsibility
Normally when I load that website,
is
the
to
volume,
focus
the
on
videos
those
are turned
who have
off.
far less than us.
Ugh.
President Trump has done precisely that in taking unprecedented action to combat this nation's drug crisis. He told me, this
Back
is
to
so
the drug
important,
crisis.
Kellyanne.
You're hurting people with the
So
drug
many lives
crisis
have been
by
ruined by
being
addiction,
throwing out the baby
and
with the
will never even know
bathwater.
it,
There are people who
people are
need
ashamed to
to
reach out
take
for help,
opioids
and
because
not
they're
even sure
allergic
who
to other
turn in the
medications.
toughest hour. Rather than look the other way, President Trump stared directly at this drug crisis next door, and through landmark bipartisan legislation has helped secure historic investments in surveillance, interdiction, education, prevention, treatment, and recovery. We have a long way to go, but the political inertia that costs lives and the silence and the stigma that prevents people in need from coming forward is melting away. This is the
I know
man
her
know
husband's Twitter too. That's what I'm
and the
saying,
president
that
we need
they're
for 4 more years. He picks the toughest fights.
They should be a reality show. I mean, have you seen Claudia Conway's
He has stood by
like
me,
Twitter feed and
and he will
TikToks?
stand up
Oh my
for
goodness.
you.
I mean, she
In
is
honor of
just.
the women who empowered
But she wanted
me
to get emancipated
and for
because
the
she was good
future
because of
the
this
children
speech.
we all cherish. Thank you, and God bless you always.
That's the fakest file I could ever see. One of these people. This is for Night of Heroes. I mean, it's unfortunate that this is not live. Because this isn't live, you can't have somebody like be like, Biden.
I'm Sister Dee Dee Byrne, and I belong to the community of the Little Workers of the Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary. Last
a
4th
long
of July,
community
I was
of
honored to
the
be one
Little
of the
Workers.
President's
Is that an
guests at his
acronym?
Salute to America celebration. I must confess that I recently prayed while in chapel, begging God to allow me to be a voice and instrument for human life. And now here I am, speaking at the Republican National Convention. I guess you better be careful for what you pray for. My journey to religious life was not a traditional route, if there is such a thing. In 1978, as a medical school student at Georgetown University,
Little
I
Workers of
joined
the
the
Sacred
Army
Hearts.
to help pay for my tuition, and ended up devoting 29 years to the military, serving as a doctor and a surgeon in places like Afghanistan and Egypt's Sinai Peninsula. After much prayer and contemplation, I entered my religious order in 2002, working to serve the poor and the sick in Haiti, Sudan, Kenya, Iraq, and in Washington, D.C. Humility is at the foundation of our order, which makes it very difficult to talk about myself. But I can
But I'm
speak
gonna do it
about my
anyway.
experience working for those fleeing war-torn and impoverished countries all around the world. Those refugees all share a common experience. They have been all marginalized, viewed as insignificant, powerless, and voiceless. And while we tend to think of the marginalized as living beyond our borders,
Heavy
the
title
truth
for the
is,
one who
the
doesn't
largest
value such
marginalized
thing.
group in the world
What's
can
the
be
title
found
again?
here
That's
in the
Heavy
United
Aquatic.
States.
I missed it.
They are the unborn. As Christians, we first met Jesus as a stirring embryo in the womb of an unwed mother and saw him born 9 months later in the poverty of the cave. It's no coincidence that Jesus stood up for what was just and was ultimately crucified because what he said wasn't politically correct or fashionable. As followers of Christ, we are called to stand up for life against the politically correct or fashionable of today. We must fight
can't do
against
that.
a legislative agenda that supports and even celebrates destroying life in the womb. Keep in mind, the laws we create define how we see our humanity. And we must ask ourselves, what are we saying when we go into a womb and snuff out an innocent, powerless, voiceless life? As a physician, I can say without hesitation, life begins at conception. While what I have to say may be difficult for some
And
to
what
hear,
is conception
I'm
to
saying it
you?
because I'm not just pro-life, I'm pro-eternal life, and
This
I
is
want
why.
all of us
Okay,
to end
this
up
is
being
why I
healthy
said
together
earlier on
someday.
in the live stream that there is no
Which
such
brings
thing
me
as
to why I'm here
Judeo-Christian.
today.
Jewish law states that
Donald
life
Trump
begins
is
at
the
birth,
most pro-life
that the embryo
president
is
that
mere
this nation
water,
has ever
that
had,
the
defending life at all
fetus
stages.
has value,
His
but not the
belief in the
same value
sanctity
as a
of
born
life
person,
transcends
and that
politics.
a woman during the third trimester,
President
if her
Trump will
pregnancy
stand up
threatens her
against
life,
Biden
that she is
Harris,
required
who are the most
to get an
anti-life
abortion.
presidential ticket ever.
Meanwhile, the
Even
Catholic
supporting the
faith,
horrors of
which she is a
late-term
part of,
abortion
would tell
and
you that you
infanticide.
cannot get an abortion
Because
if
of his
the
courage and
pregnancy is
conviction,
life-threating.
President
You can
Trump has
only
earned
treat
the
a
support of
condition that's
America's
not
pro-life
an
community.
abortion. And if it ends up
Moreover, he has
aborting
a
the pregnancy
nationwide
anyway,
religious
then that's not
standing
morally an
behind him.
abortion, so you're
You'll
fine.
find us
Like
here
if you
with
had
our
uterine
weapon
cancer and were
choice, the
pregnant
rosary.
and had to get the uterus
Well, thank you,
removed,
Mr. President. We are all
that would not be
praying for
morally
you.
considered an abortion under the eyes of the double effect with the Catholic Church. But if you had a problematic pregnancy, the Catholic Church would say you cannot.
Many of you might know me as Coach Holt.
You
or maybe as a
cannot
football
get an
guy.
abortion.
It is a
Jewish law
pleasure.
would require you to get an abortion. It's the same God, supposedly, yet there's two different, absolutely diametrically opposed beliefs on the thing. That's why I say, one of the reasons at least, why I say that there's no such thing as Judeo-Christian, because specifically on this one issue, on abortion. Jewish law is so much different than Christian law on this.
They taught me that life is about making
I don't know how you go from Exodus 22 verses 23 and 25, where it says that a two-man strife, and if she miscarries, then there's a monetary fee owed. But if there's damage to the woman, then it's eye for an eye. I don't know how you go from that in the Torah to life begins at conception. It's completely contradictory to what the Torah says.
But there are people today, like politicians.
Bet you weren't expecting me to be able to quote scripture, eh?
President Trump's naysayers in the media who like to blame others for problems. They don't have pride in our country. And because they no longer ask, what can I do for my country? Only what the country should be doing for them. They don't have pride in themselves.
What?
That's wrong.
I've missed half of
when I was an officer in the Army, I served with so many great Americans who embraced their responsibility to our country. I'm so proud of their sacrifices and the opportunity it has provided for so many millions. America remains a land of opportunity, no matter what the other side says or believes. You know, there's a statue of me at Notre Dame. I guess they needed a place for the pigeons to land. But if you look closely, you will see these three words there: trust, commitment, and love. All my life, I've made my choices based on these three words. I use these three rules to make choices about everything. My beloved wife of 59 years, athletes I coached, and of course, politicians, even President Trump. I ask myself three things. One, can I trust them?
Aquatic says, Christianity hangs me up with the man who has never been reached with the word of Jesus and him being condemned to hell for it.
He says what
Amen. I've made that exact same criticism before.
At every single turn. One of the important reasons he has my trust is because nobody has been a stronger advocate for
just want to say to the 4 concurrent viewers watching, please remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share the stream, and share the channel, and other videos. Lots of other videos. I have the best videos. No one has better videos than Liberal Dan on YouTube. Liberal Dan Radio on YouTube. They're the greatest. Still working on it. One of these days I'll do. By the time I get down Trump's impression, he'll be gone. Hopefully that means I'll get it down in November.
Always finds a way to get something done. If you want to do something bad enough, you will find a way.
Oh, I don't begrudge people's faith if you want to believe. As long as your beliefs doesn't affect me, I have no problem with your beliefs. Once you start using those beliefs to justify laws that could potentially harm me and the people I know and love, yes, I'm going to have a problem with that, and I don't believe that's a free exercise of religion. I also don't believe it's free exercise of religion to be able to go to church in the middle of a pandemic.
Advocating for school choice and welfare reform.
And in New Orleans, we don't have school choice. We have a lottery. I'll just repeat that. Every time they say school choice, I'm going to repeat that line. We don't have school choice. We have a lottery. There's no guarantee that you get to go to the school that you choose.
Trust, commitment, and love. In President Trump, we have a president we could trust, who works hard at making America greater, and who genuinely cares about people. If I apply this test to Joe Biden, I can't say yes.
You would see Joe Biden has more empathy in his pinky than Donald Trump has in his whole orange body.
Can you imagine what would happen to us if President Trump had not shown up in 2016 to run for president? I'm so glad he showed up. Thank you for showing up, Mr. President. I encourage everyone who loves this country, who loves America, to show up in November for President Trump. Thank you.
Hi. I'm Michael McHale, but my friends call me Mick.
Hi, Michael McHale.
I'm a 30-year active
Are you Irish?
member of law enforcement in the state of Florida. I am also the president of the National Association of Police Organizations, NAPO.
I am so
Our
shocked.
organization recently endorsed Donald Trump for re-election as President of the United States. Our endorsement recognized his strong support for the men and women on the front lines, particularly during these challenging times. We value his support of aggressive federal prosecution of those who attack our police officers, his signing of the Law Enforcement Mental Health and Wellness Act, and his support for permanently authorizing funds to support 9/11 first responders and their families. Law enforcement officers across the nation take an oath to run towards danger when everyone else is running away. They do so willingly to protect.
And then when they're running away, they shoot him in the back.
I'm proud that the overwhelming majority of American police officers are the best of the best and put their lives on the line without hesitation.
He does. He looks like Buzz from Home Alone.
Need to know their elected leaders and the department brass have their backs.
Aquata goes, I mean, he totally looks like a Butch or a Buzz. And I was like, he looks like Buzz from Home Alone.
Failed officials in cities like Portland, Minneapolis, Chicago, and New York make the conscious decision not to support law enforcement. Shootings, murders, looting, and rioting occur unabated. The violence and bloodshed we are seeing.
The amount of people that are looting and causing violence are not the vast majority of the people who are protesting. A. B. Some of those people were conservatives who were trying to make Black Lives Matter look bad. And then you have that 17-year-old kid who murdered two people.
To the far left, anti-law enforcement radicals. And as a senator,
he says, "Okay, Kevin."
Harris pushed to further restrict police, cut their training, and make our American.
We're the wet bandits. We're the wet bandits now.
Even more dangerous than they already are. Conversely, President Trump supports the creation of a national standard for training on de-escalation and communication to give officers more tools to resolve conflict.
I went through a Citizens Police Academy, one of the cities here in New Orleans metropolitan area, and they already have escalation procedures. Like, right, you're not supposed to escalate. Like, there's no reason why that cop that shot the guy in Kenosha, there's no reason he should have had his gun drawn at that time. There's simulators that you go through that show you when was a reasonable time to pull the gun and when not. There are clear standards already of when you should escalate and when you shouldn't be escalating.
And support the re-election of President Donald J. Trump.
Aquatic, he showed up.
And God bless America.
He showed up armed. I think you can't open carry unless you're 18 and he's underage. They showed up specifically. He crossed state lines, I believe, specifically to basically shoot people. And then,
I'm Congresswoman Elise Stefanik,
holding a gun, he walks through police officers. No police officers don't even do it bat an eye. Tamir Rice has a toy gun, and they shot him down in cold blood. That's why people march.
Years ago, brave patriots fought in the battles of Saratoga to turn the tide of the Revolutionary War. It's where 40 years ago in Lake Placid, a team of amateur hockey players out-hustled, out-skated, and defeated the Soviet Union, stunning the world and giving us the unforgettable Miracle on Ice. And today, it's home to Fort Drum and the historic 10th Mountain Division, the most deployed unit in the U.S. Army since 9/11. Where I saw firsthand President Trump graciously thank and honor our men and women in uniform and sign the largest pay raise for our troops in a decade. Since our nation's founding, generation after generation of everyday Americans served and sacrificed to preserve and strengthen the American dream, the vision of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and the idea that if you work hard and dream big, you can achieve anything you imagine. I believe in the American dream because I've lived it. Like millions of Americans, I grew up in a small business family where I learned the values of hard work and determination. I was the first person in my immediate family to graduate from college, ran for Congress to serve upstate New York, and am proudly the youngest Republican woman elected to Congress in history. I am honored to support President Trump for re-election because I know that he is the only candidate who will stand up for hardworking families and protect the American dream for future generations. Since his first day in office, President Trump has fought tirelessly to deliver results for all Americans, despite the Democrats' baseless and illegal impeachment sham and the media's endless obsession with it.
The sham was the Republicans not voting to actually have a hearing like their constitutional responsibility should have been.
American people. This attack was not just on the president. It was an attack on you, your voice, and your vote. But the American people were not swayed by these partisan attacks. Our support for President Trump is stronger than ever before. We know what's at stake in this historic election. Americans from all walks of life are unified in support of our president. It's why more Republican women than ever are running for office this year. We understand that this election is a choice between the far-left Democratic socialist agenda versus protecting and preserving the American dream.
Yawn.
Trump is working to
they say the same things over and over again, and it seems to be getting boring
that the engine
at this
of
point.
Our country is fueled by the ingenuity and determination
get some new talking
of American
points.
workers, entrepreneurs, and small businesses. Joe Biden wants to keep them locked up in the basement and crush them with $4 trillion in new taxes. We face a critical choice. Joe Biden's far-left failed policies of the past 47 years, or President Trump, who will stand up for the American people and the Constitution. I believe in the wisdom and spirit of the American people to elect the only candidate who is capable of protecting the American dream, President Donald J. Trump.
Sure.
Thank you to the North Country for
American
the opportunity
dream for the
to serve
white
as
folks,
your
at least.
voice, supporting his re-election. God bless the United States of America, the greatest country on earth.
Good evening. I'm Madison Cawthorn, and I'm running to represent North Carolina's 11th Congressional District. This is a time of great adversity for our country, and I know something about adversity. At 18 years old, I was in a horrific car accident that's left me paralyzed from the waist down. Instantly, my hopes and dreams were seemingly destroyed. I was given a 1% chance of surviving, but thanks to the power of prayer, a very loving community, and many skilled doctors, I made it. It took me over a year to recover. My first public outing in a wheelchair was to a professional baseball game. You know, before my accident, I was 6'3". I stood out in a crowd. But as I wheeled through the stadium, I felt invisible. At 20, I thought about giving up. However, I knew I could still make a difference. You know, my accident has given me new eyes to see and new ears to hear. God protected my mind
he's
and
meaning
my ability to
figuratively.
speak. So I say to people who feel forgotten, ignored, and invisible, I see you. I hear you. At 20, I made a choice. In 2020, our country had a choice. We can give up on the American idea, or we can work together to make our imperfect union more perfect. I choose to fight for the future, to seize the high ground and retake the shining city on a hill. While the radical left wants to dismantle, defund, and destroy, Republicans, under President Trump's leadership, want to rebuild, restore, and renew. I just turned 25. When I'm elected this November, I'll be the youngest member of Congress in over 200 years.
Wow.
And if you don't think young people can change the world, then you just don't know American history. George Washington was 21 when he received his first military commission. Abe Lincoln, 22 when he first ran for office. And my personal favorite, James Madison, was just 25 years old when he signed the Declaration of Independence. In times of peril,
they love Madison.
Young people have stepped up and saved this country, abroad and at home. We held the line, scaled the cliffs, crossed oceans, liberated camps, and cracked codes. Yet today, political
Native
forces
Americans
want to
were the
usher
code
in
crackers,
the digital
were they
dark
not?
ages. a time of information without wisdom and tribalism without truth. National leaders on the left have normalized emotion-based voting and a radicalized identity politics that rejects Martin Luther King's dream. MLK's dream is our dream, for all Americans to be judged solely on their character. Millions of people risk their lives every year to come here because they believe in the dream of MLK and the American dream.
Don't quote Martin Luther King.
Join
Stop.
us as we, the Party of Freedom, double down
The
on
Party of
ensuring the
Freedom,
American
except
dream
for gay people or, you know, black people when they want to vote, women when they want to have decision over their own bodies, women when they want to vote according to the one woman speaker who believes that we should go back to head of household speakers where the men have the final say.
And let the best ones prevail. And to conservatives, I say, let's define what we support and win the argument in areas like healthcare, on the environment.
Winning the argument. That'll be the day.
In this new town square,
If they could win the argument, then they wouldn't have to do such shenanigans with voting.
You can kneel before God, but stand for our flag. The American idea my ancestors fought for during the Revolutionary War is just as exciting and revolutionary today as it was 250 years ago. I say to Americans who love our country, young and old, be a radical for freedom.
Vote for Joe Biden.
For liberty. And be a radical for our republic, for which I stand. One nation under God, with liberty and justice for all.
What happened to Indivisible?
May God bless America.
Did he miss Indivisible on purpose or what? Did you catch that, Aquatic, in the chat? Did he specifically not say Indivisible? Am I being too nitpicky with that?
I'm Jack Brewer, a former three-time NFL team captain, college professor, coach, husband.
Democrats want to take out Under God. Republicans want to take out Indivisible. That's not going to play well.
But I support Donald Trump. Let me be clear. I didn't come here for the popularity or the praise, the likes or the retweets. I'm here as a servant to God, a servant to the people of our nation, and a servant to our president. I grew up in Grapevine, Texas, a town that my great-grandfather was the first black man to settle as a sharecropper in 1896. My early high school experience included fighting with skinheads and being a witness in an attempted murder trial after my friend shot a skinhead in self-defense. I remember my dad's bravery when he personally stood up against a KKK rally in my town. In my house, my father taught me to back down from no one. I know what racism looks like. I've seen it firsthand. In America, it has no resemblance to President Trump. And I'm fed up with the way he's portrayed in the media, who refuse to acknowledge what he's actually done for the black community. It's confusing the minds of our innocent children. Before I left to come deliver this message, my energetic 8-year-old son, Jackson, stopped me and said, "Dad, can you please just tell everyone that all lives need to matter and that God loves everyone?" In that moment, I realized that my 8-year-old had figured out what so many adults have seemed to forget.
What is that?
We are not as divided as our politics suggest. At some point, for the sake of our children, the policies must take priority over the personalities. So because you have an issue with President Trump's tone, you're going to allow Biden and Harris to deny
Biden and Harris, who?
And brown children school choice?
School choice is not, we don't have school choice in New Orleans, we have a lottery. You can say it every single time.
We're going to ignore that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have collectively been responsible for locking up countless black men for nonviolent crimes. Are you going to allow the media to lie to you by falsely claiming that he said there were very fine white supremacists in Charlottesville? He didn't say that.
He did.
And ignore the so-called Black Lives Matter organization that openly, on their website, calls for the destruction of the nuclear family. My fellow Americans.
Where does it say that specifically? I want to know that one.
We need black fathers in the homes with their wives and children. The future of our communities depend on it. I'm blessed to be able to run inner city youth programs and to also teach in prisons across America. The inmates in my federal prison program literally receive days off their sentence just for attending my class. And that's thanks to President Donald Trump and his First Step Act. President Trump cared about these Americans and their families, even when so many others had left them behind and had written them off. I'm forever grateful for President Trump for that. He endures relentless attacks, and so do many of us, like myself, who support him. But my mama always told me, when the Lord starts blessing, the devil starts messing. This convention marks a time.
That does sound like someone's mama would say.
Republicans are the party that freed the slaves and the party that put the first black men and women in Congress. It's the party of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. And now, Tim Scott and Donald Trump. Our president has made incredible strides to end mass incarceration and give unprecedented opportunities for black in America to rise. America, let this election be a call for all God's people who are called by his name to humble ourselves and pray together and to seek his face and to turn from our wicked ways. Then he will hear us from heaven, and he will forgive our sins, and he will heal our land. Amen, and God bless America.
Did I lose Aquatic? Did I lose you about the whole thing? I'm pretty sure he left out Indivisible. I just asked that question on Twitter to see if I get any responses on that, too. That's why I didn't respond too much to the last speaker.
Greetings. My name is Chen Guangcheng. Standing up to tyranny is not easy, I know. When I spoke out against China's one-child policy and other injustices, I was prosecuted, beaten, sent to prison, and put under house arrest by the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP. In April 2012, I escaped and was given shelter in the American Embassy in Beijing. I'm forever grateful to the American people for welcoming me and my family to the United States, where we are now free. The CCP is an enemy of humanity. It is terrorizing its own people, and it is threatening the well-being of the world. In China, expressing beliefs or ideas not approved by the CCP, religion, democracy, human rights can lead to prison. The nation lives under mass surveillance and censorship. The U.S. must use its values of freedom, democracy, and the rule of law to gather a coalition of other democracies to stop CCP's aggression. President Trump had led on this, and we need the other countries to join him in this fight, a fight for our future. Standing up to fight unfairness.
All right, have a good one, Aquatic. Aquatic is taking up. Got to be a good parent. More power to you for that.
He has shown the courage to wage that fight. We need to support, vote, and fight for President Trump for the sake of the world. Thank you.
I respectfully disagree, but I'm glad you were able to make it to safety into our country.
I'm Congressman Lee Zeldin. Tonight, as we celebrate America as a land of heroes, I'm here at a VFW Post of Heroes in West Hampton Beach, New York. I've seen amazing Americans in action. Raised in a law enforcement family, deployed to Iraq as an 82nd Airborne paratrooper, and serving today in the Army Reserve. My generation of post-9/11 veterans has huge shoes to fill, following our greatest generation that fought tyranny and saved the world. All over our country, everyday heroes serve and sacrifice for the greater good. Farmers, truckers, craftsmen, these heroes keep America running, and President Trump fights for them every day.
Sure.
This year, we've especially relied on one particular group of heroes, frontline medical workers. My twin daughters, Michaela and Ariana, were born over 14 weeks early. They weighed just 1.5 pounds. At 2 weeks, Michaela went into septic shock, had a stroke, and underwent brain surgery, leaving 1/3 of the left side of her brain a hole. Her doctors didn't believe Michaela would survive, fearing dire permanent consequences even if she did. Through the miracles of modern medicine, power of prayer, and her will to live, my daughters are now starting high school and doing great, with no long-term effects from those frightful months in the NICU. So when I learned my county's PPE stockpile was depleted, I immediately thought of those healthcare workers who saved my baby girls. Jared Kushner and I were on the phone late into that Saturday night. The very next day, President Trump announced he was sending us 200,000 N95 masks. He actually delivered almost 400,000. That number quickly grew to 1.2 million. Masks,
and why was
gowns,
there a
and more.
shortage? Was it simply because of the fact that Obama was derelict in his duty, or was it the fact that the Republicans in the Congress, House, and Senate fought since 2010 or 2011, I guess, when they started their term, to fight Obama on every single thing, every single solitary thing?
An unforeseeable crisis sent to us from a faraway land. The president's effort for New York was phenomenal. For our nation to emerge even stronger, more prosperous, freer, and more secure than ever. To make our country greater than ever before, we must re-elect President Trump. We are the land of the free because of the brave. And we are the land of opportunity because we have a president who wants to empower the best of who we are to be the best of what we can be. There's never been a nation greater than ours. Never a people more resilient than ours.
And Donald Trump threatens
and never
that.
A future for America more promising than ours right now. Keeping America great is up
Wait,
to us.
they're back to keep America great. It's make America great. It's keep America great. Make up your minds. Which is it? Did he do it or did he not do it?
Very proud to have President Trump in office here. He's the best we've ever had. He's done the most for any president ever done.
He's always there trying to take care of veterans, giving veterans what they need. The turnaround times have increased since Trump has taken over. You have to fight 15 years for benefits, but once he came into office, you had like 90 days. You turned your paperwork in, at least you had some kind of answer.
I waited months for a signature on a piece of paper to get a prosthetic leg fixed, and now it's a lot better turnaround.
But before, it was a 5-year waiting process to appeal. So how long do we have to wait for benefits?
I waited 20 years to file. Rapidly was approved for medical and then turned right around and got disability. I was thinking it was going to be a several years worth of waiting to hear.
He's accomplished a lot in 3.5 years. And it helps the American people, and he has done a lot for veterans, for the middle class.
I chose to serve my country. If I could do it, I would do it all over again, especially for this president. I mean, he's the kind of president you'd run through a brick wall if he asked you to.
I mean, I have a hard time begrudging the people who for their service. There's a lot of people in the military who do not support this president too, and that's the thing.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for inviting me into your home this evening.
I mean, I didn't invite you.
It's truly a privilege. My name is Joni Ernst. I was raised on a small family farm.
I didn't
here in
recognize
Iowa,
her. Did
where
she
I learned
grow her
the
hair
importance
out?
of faith, hard work, and service.
And that shirt.
I worked my way through college, then dedicated my life to serving my country as a local official, a battalion commander in the military.
She's having, yeah, she used to have
and
really
as a
short
US
hair. That's why I was
senator.
like, yeah, there you go, short hair.
It's more than a word to me. It's a mission, a way of life. It's what brought me to Cedar Rapids, Iowa in
Is she
2008 when I was
desperate,
in
I
the National
guess,
Guard.
because they let her
We saw
on because
historic
she's
floods that swept
struggling
through
with
the
her current
communities.
polling data?
We lent a helping hand to our fellow Iowans who were literally underwater. We thought we had seen the worst, but 12 years later, these same communities have faced an even more devastating disaster. The recent
Greenfield
derecho
is
storm.
up by
If you
0.3.
don't
This is
live
a
in
toss-up
Iowa,
race
you may
for
not
the
have heard
Iowa
much about it
Senate.
at first. While reporters here in the state were in the trenches covering the equivalent
The
of a
Monmouth
Category
poll
2
has Ernst up by
hurricane,
1.
most of the national
PPP
media
has Ernst up
looked
by
the other
1.
way.
Des Moines Register
To
had
them,
Greenfield up
Iowa
by
is still
3.
just flyover country. Houses,
RCP at Real
farms
Clear
were
Politics average
destroyed.
of
About
0.03.
1/3
It
of
is
our
a
crops here
real
were damaged.
tie, a toss-up.
In some cases, these storms wiped out a lifetime of work. And yet Iowa farmers didn't hesitate to grab their chainsaws and check on their neighbors. Our farmers live every day with that sense of service, the stewards of the land, the ones who feed and fuel the world. President Trump quickly signed an emergency declaration for Iowa to provide
According
relief.
to Data for
And of
Progress,
course, when President Trump came
Greenfield
to
up by
Cedar Rapids,
2.
the national media
RNG
finally
Research,
did too.
Greenfield up by
For
4.
years, I've worked closely with the president for farmers in Iowa and across
Public
the
policy
country.
polling
We
August 13th to
scrapped
14th.
Obama and Biden's punishing waters of the United
48 to
States
45
rule,
Greenfield.
which
Ernst is
would
in
have regulated
trouble.
about 97% of land in Iowa. In some cases, even puddles. It would have been a nightmare for farmers. The president delivered on major trade deals with Japan and the United States, Mexico,
Because he created a
Canada,
problem. Like, you can't
and
give
he
somebody
implemented
credit for
the
creating a
sale of
problem and then fixing the
E15
problem they just
fuel
created.
year-round. That means more
Ugh.
choices for you at the pump and more jobs for farmers in the heartland. This is something the Obama-Biden administration failed to do in 8 years. In fact, I can't recall an administration more hostile to farmers than Obama-Biden, unless you count the Biden-Harris ticket. The Democratic Party of Joe Biden is pushing this so-called Green New Deal. If given power, they would essentially
So-called.
ban animal agriculture and eliminate gas-powered cars. It would destroy the agriculture industry, not just here in Iowa, but throughout the country.
What? You are an
When the
idiot.
pandemic hit, President Trump heard us in our call for assistance for our farmers. Knowing we have an ally in the White House is important. Folks, this election is a choice.
Let's pull this up. Let's
Two
fact
very
check
different
this.
paths. Freedom, prosperity, and economic growth under a Trump-Pence administration. Or the Biden-Harris path, paved by liberal coastal elites and radical environmentalists.
Ooh,
In America, where
scary.
farmers are punished,
You know, we should want
jobs are
elite
destroyed,
people to be
and
in
taxes crush
our
the
government.
middle
We
class.
should want to have elite
That is
people.
our choice.
Not necessarily
And it's
elitists,
a clear
but
one.
the elite should be who
Thank
serves
you,
in
and
government.
God bless.
We should want the best of the best.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Burgess Owens. Shackled in the belly of a slave ship, an 8-year-old boy named Silas Burgess came to America to be sold on an auction block. By the grace of God and the courage of slaves who believed in freedom, Silas escaped through the Underground Railroad and settled in the great state of Texas. He went on to become a successful entrepreneur. He built his community's first church, first elementary school, and purchased 102 acres of farmland, which he paid off in 2 years. I'm here today, a candidate for Congress, because of my great-great-grandfather, Silas Burgess. I was raised in the South during the days of Jim Crow and the KKK. Even through the challenges
Can't
of
find anything
segregation,
to verify
we
or
were
back
taught
up the idea that
anything is
Democrats,
possible in
the
America.
Green New Deal would harm you
When I
from
was
being
22
able
years
to
old,
harm
I thought
agriculture.
all my dreams had come true when I was
Maybe they
drafted
might
by the New York
encourage
Jets.
more
10 years
sustainable
later,
ways
with a
to
Pro Bowl nod and a Super Bowl
work.
championship under my belt, I left the NFL to start a business. I thought I could never fail, but years later I did, and I lost everything. As I moved my family of 6 into a one-bedroom basement apartment in Brooklyn, New York, I had a choice to make: to feel sorry for myself or get to work. I worked as a chimney sweep during the day and a security guard at night. It was humbling to be recognized cleaning a chimney by someone who once cheered me as an NFL fan. But those hard days would pay off, and eventually I started a rewarding career in the corporate world. We live in a country where we're encouraged to dream big, where second chances are at the core of our American DNA. We don't hear that same message from Nancy Pelosi's Congress. Career politicians, elitists, and even a former bartender want us to believe it's impossible. They want us to believe that what I did, what my great-great-grandfather did.
Did he just refer to AOC as a former bartender? Is that what he really just did? It took me a couple seconds for it to process in my head. The amount of disrespect that they show towards that woman.
That my father fought against in World War II. We have a Democratic candidate for president who says that I'm not black if I don't vote for him. Now more than ever, we need leaders who stand by their principles and won't compromise their values for political opportunities. Now more than ever, we need leaders who will stand up to the lawlessness supported by the radical left. This November, we have an opportunity to reject the mob mentality and once again be the America that my great-great-grandfather believed in. During the Trump administration, business ownership among blacks, Hispanics, and females have reached all-time highs. Those same groups enjoyed record low unemployment and unprecedented prosperity. And we're just getting started. I'm running for Congress because we don't need more careers. We need more leaders like President Trump who understand the freedoms that make up the fabric of America. My fellow Americans, specifically my Democrat and independent friends, it is now time for us to unite and put aside partisan barriers. Help us win the House, keep the Senate, and give our president 4 more years. And I promise.
How is that not partisan?
We will make you proud.
That is completely partisan.
And God bless the United States.
If we were nonpartisan, we could have a Democratic House and a Republican Senate and reach a consensus and do things that are, you know,
standing guard over Baltimore
just ridiculous. Oh Jesus!
Of an earthen star.
That's right. He's doing this for Fort McHenry, isn't he?
Time past. It recalls a time when the spirit of liberty stirred in men of renown who stood in the gap against the most powerful force in the world. 27 hours, 1,000 men, low on ammunition, firing scrap metal. The battle raged, insurmountable odds. A darkness fell upon this new nation. In the midst of the fight, the heroes of Fort McHenry were unmoved. The light of dawn overcame the darkness. The gallant flag hoisted above Fort McHenry, torn and battered, stood, victoriously observing a dejected enemy slowly retreating into the rising sun, inspiring the anthem of our nation. The spirit of liberty, not to be denied, the earthen star, Fort McHenry, a reminder of those brave patriots who, having done all, stood and prevailed. It is why we stand today, honoring past, present, and future generations of freedom-loving Americans when we hear the anthem and raise the Star-Spangled Banner.
Good evening, America. I'm Lara Trump.
Yes, you are.
Daughter of Bob and Linda Unaska, sister to Kyle, mother to Luke and Carolina, and the daughter-in-law of our 45th president, Donald J. Trump. But tonight, I come to you simply as an American.
Sure.
My life began like many in our country. I grew up in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. My parents were small business owners and worked hard to make sure that my brother and I had everything we needed, but not everything we wanted. My parents raised me to believe that in America, I could achieve anything with hard work and determination. That the opportunities available to me were limited only by the size of my ambition. That I should dream big, and I did. Those very dreams are what led me to New York City. I'd heard the adage, if I can make it there, I can make it anywhere. And
that's New York. That's not America.
Never in a million years did I think that I would be on this stage tonight, and I certainly never thought that I'd end up with the last name Trump. My 7th grade English teacher, Mrs. B, used to tell us, believe none of what you hear, half of what you read, and only what you're there to witness firsthand. The meaning of those words never fully weighed on me until I met my husband and the Trump family. Any preconceived notion I had of this family disappeared immediately. They were warm and caring. They were hard workers, and they were down to earth. They reminded me of my own family. They made me feel like I was home. Walking the halls of the Trump Organization, I saw the same family environment. I also saw the countless women executives who thrived there year after year. Gender didn't matter. What mattered was the ability to get the job done. I learned this directly when, in 2016, my father-in-law asked me to help him win my cherished home state and my daughter's namesake, North Carolina. Though I had no political experience, he believed in me. He knew I was capable, even if I didn't. So it didn't surprise me when President Donald Trump appointed so many women to senior-level positions in his administration. Secretary
I wanted more things to grab, that's why.
Of the Air Force, the first female CIA director, the first black female director of the Fish and Wildlife Service.
Can we stop with the female thing? I mean, female is... Women. They're women. Female is an adjective. Just like how they want to say the blacks. Conservatives say blacks. Black is an adjective, not a noun. Black people. Say black people.
Women took over 70% of all new jobs. Female small business ownership remains at an all-time high, and 600,000 women have been lifted out of poverty, all since President Trump took office. He didn't do these things to gain a vote or check a box. He did them because they're the right things to do.
Yeah, that's exactly why.
100 years ago today, the 19th Amendment was ratified, granting the right to vote to every American woman. And since that day, incredible strides have been made by women in America. From Amelia Earhart to Rosa Parks and Sally Ride, women shaped our history and are part of what has made our country the most exceptional nation in the world. I often think back to my 24-year-old self, driving alone in my car from North Carolina to New York City. And I think about what I'd tell myself now as we head towards the most critical election in modern history. This is not just a choice between Republican and Democrat, or left and right. This is an election that will decide if we keep America, America, or
keep America, America? Ka? Is that your new thing? Ka?
Abraham Lincoln once famously said, "America will never be destroyed from the outside. If we falter and lose our freedoms, it will be because we destroyed ourselves." While those words were spoken over 150 years ago, never have they been more relevant. Will we choose the right path and maintain the unique freedoms and boundless opportunities that make this country the greatest in the history of the world? Will we remain the beacon of hope for those around the world fighting oppression, communism, and tyranny? The choice is ours. I know the promise of America because I've lived it, not just as a member of the Trump family, but as a woman who knows what it's like
to keep America, America. There's no racist undertones there and whatever because of what you believe, what conservatives believe that America is.
When I look at my son Luke and my daughter Carolina, I wonder, what sort of country will I be leaving for them, for our future generations? In recent months, we've seen weak, spineless politicians seize control of our great American cities to violent mobs. Defund the police is the rallying cry for the new radical Democrat Party. Joe Biden will not do what it takes to maintain order, to keep our children safe in our neighborhoods and in their schools.
Defund the police doesn't mean what you think it means.
Way of life. We cannot dare to dream our biggest dreams for ourselves or for our children while consumed by worry about the safety of our families. President Trump is the law and order president, from our borders to our backyards. President Trump will keep America safe. President Trump will keep America prosperous. President Trump will keep America, America. If you're watching,
keep there we go again. Keep America, America. Is that the new? Are they throwing that little out there, like putting a little balloon up there, raise it up, see?
Straight from someone who knows. I wasn't born a Trump. I'm from the South.
I'm Trump by injection.
I went to public schools and worked my way through a state university. Mrs. B from my 7th grade English class was right. What I learned about our president is different than what you might have heard. I learned that he's a good
Chuck
man.
Schumer, it's August 26th and President Trump
family,
still doesn't have an adequate national testing strategy.
That
Amen.
no one on earth works harder for the American people. That he's willing to fight for his beliefs and for the people and the country that he loves. He is a person of conviction. He is a fighter and will never stop fighting for America. He will uphold our values. He will preserve our families. And he will build upon the great American edict that our union will never be perfect until opportunity is equal for all, including and especially for women. Our 40th president, Ronald Reagan.
Because I love women all have the equal opportunity to be grabbed by me.
But everybody wants their dreams to come true. And America, above all places, gives us the freedom to do that. It's up to us to keep this country a place where no dream is out of reach for our children and generations beyond. To my father-in-law, thank you.
Molly Jong Fast on Twitter at Molly Jong Fast. Keep America, America is a dog whistle.
For continuing
yep,
to
pretty much.
Every day for America.
That's exactly what I said when I said that it had racist undertones.
The Gulf states in the path of the hurricane. May God bless our troops, and may God continue to bless this incredible country.
Good evening. My name is Sam Vigil. There is a hole in my heart since my beloved Jackie was taken from me. This is her story. There were two things that Jackie loved to do every day. One was to go to the gym and tweet out Bible verses and prayers.
For a second, I thought that was Shimon Peres from Israel, but he's dead. I mean, the spitting image.
Day started out like any other day. She left for the gym early in the morning. I heard the garage door open. Seconds later, I heard the car horn. I went outside to see if she had forgotten something. What I saw was a Jeep blocking her car in the driveway. I noticed the bullet hole in Jackie's window. I saw someone jumping into the Jeep and speeding away. Jackie had just been shot and killed in cold blood. We think this was a carjacking gone wrong, very wrong. Every time I open the garage door or stand in the driveway, I hear that horn. I see her slumped in the seat. When I go to bed at night, that sound and image haunt me. That's my life sentence. It's a sentence being served by too many families left behind by senseless killings.
Brandy Rhodes, the Brandy Rhodes, CEO of AEW on TNT, or CBO.
50% of homicides are solved.
Every time we start to feel somewhat safe and normal, another tragedy strikes. The Blake family deserves better. We all deserve better. This is sick. When does it end?
Colombia, only to be gunned down in her own driveway. For 8 months, there were no arrests, no leads in connection with Jackie's murder. The Albuquerque police were overwhelmed. They needed help. Help arrived when President Trump launched Operation Legend in July of this year. Almost immediately, the FBI took over Jackie's case. In a matter of days, they arrested 4 people. The 5th suspect killer was arrested in Texas on unrelated charges. He is an illegal immigrant with a long criminal record. He had been deported in September and had come back in October to terrorize our community. I am extremely grateful to President Trump and the FBI for their efforts to deliver justice for Jackie and all the other innocent victims of violent crime. I am honored to support the President because he is supporting us. I know he will never stop fighting for justice, for law and order, for peace, security in our communities.
Greetings, my fellow Americans. I am Clarence Henderson. There have been movements that have changed the course of history. Among the most extraordinary was the Civil Rights Movement. 60 years ago, segregation was legal and enforced. The simple act of sitting at a lunch counter could lead to physical harm, jail time, or worse. I know from personal experience. Walking into Woolworth department store on February 2nd, 1960, I knew it was unlike any day I'd experienced before. My friends had been denied service the day before because of the color of their skin. We knew it wasn't right. But when we went back the next day, I didn't know whether I was going to come out in a vertical or prone position, in handcuffs, or on a stretcher, or even in a body bag. By sitting down to order a cup of coffee, we challenged injustice. We knew it was necessary, but we didn't know what would happen. We faced down the KKK. We were cursed at and called all kinds of names. They threatened to kill us, and some of us were arrested, but it was worth it. Our actions inspired similar protests throughout the South against racial injustice. And in the end, segregation was abolished, and our country moved a step closer to true equality for all. That's what actual peaceful protest can accomplish. America isn't perfect. We're always improving. But the great thing about this country is that it's not where you come from, it's where you're going. I was born on what some would call the wrong side of the tracks. I don't even have a birth certificate. I never attended an integrated school, and am the only one out of my immediate family who graduated from college, an HBCU. I'm a military veteran and a civil rights activist. And you know what else? I'm a Republican, and I support Donald Trump. If that
I'm sure a lot of other civil rights activists are going to look at you strange because they don't understand how you can do it. I'll be listening to them because there's much more of them than there are of you.
It was the Republican Party that passed the 14th Amendment, giving black men citizenship.
It's not the same Republican Party.
The 15th Amendment, giving black men the right to vote.
What? Every time Republicans talk about how the Republicans were great on civil rights, they have to stop around 1964.
Who media is trying to convince to conform to the same.
But magically, Donald Trump is wonderful. No, it's ridiculous.
The same old results. Joe Biden had the audacity to say, if you don't vote for him, you ain't black.
Who's joking? Jesus.
If you do vote for Biden, you don't know history. Donald Trump.
You don't know history if you think that the Republican Party past the 14th Amendment, 15th Amendment is the same party of today. It's not. They swapped with the Democrats.
HBCUs is priceless too.
Southern Strategy.
So are the
Nixon, Reagan, look it up.
Black community. And the investment he drove into our neighborhoods with tax incentives in opportunity zones. And so are the lives he restored by passing criminal justice reform, where 91% of the inmates released are black. These achievements demonstrate that Donald Trump truly cares about black lives. His policies show his heart. He has done more for black Americans in 4 years than Joe Biden has done in 50. Donald Trump is offering real and lasting change, an unprecedented opportunity to rise, a country that embraces the spirit of the civil rights movement of the 60s, a place where people are judged by the content of their character, their talents and abilities, not by the color of their skin. This is the America I was fighting for 60 years ago. This is the America Donald Trump is fighting for today. Let's all join in this fight for re-electing President Trump on November 3rd. Thank you.
During the presidential primary debates 4 years ago, one outsider stood alone.
Well, he wasn't alone. He was next to like 16 people on stage.
It was 14 years after the start of the war in Afghanistan and 12 years after the invasion of Iraq, where thousands of American troops had died and trillions in taxpayer dollars had been spent. And yet no candidate could bring themselves to admit that something had gone badly wrong with American foreign policy. That the American voter the American soldier, and the American taxpayer had all been let down. Except for one, Donald Trump. He called America's endless wars what they were, a disaster.
And all of these Republicans, if Donald Trump had said that that he loved the wars and they should continue, they would applaud him too for the same very thing, because they're not about policy, they're about Trump. They're about hero worship. Donald Trump also said that we should go bomb kids and women. Remember that?
That the whole world would start to resemble America. And so they started to pursue unlimited globalization. They welcomed China into the World Trade Organization. They engaged in nation building in Afghanistan and tried to export democracy to Iraq. They signed a nuclear deal with Iran and a global climate agreement in Paris.
Oh no, that we would sign a climate agreement.
The average American. So for decades, while Washington...
We care about the environment, the horror.
System, American wages stagnated. Our great cities and industries were hollowed out. Entire communities were devastated. And our manufacturing plants were shipped off to China. That's what happened when Washington stopped being the capital of the United States and started being the capital of the world. As U.S. ambassador to Germany, I had a front row seat to Donald Trump's America First foreign policy.
America first.
American could see how President Trump
racist dog whistle. Just like Keep America, America. Whatever you want to call it.
Of Germany, while insisting that Germany pay its NATO obligations. I was proud to witness President Trump say to foreign leaders, I don't blame you for wanting America to pay for your security. I actually respect you for out-negotiating the presidents before me. But it stops with me. I won't let the American taxpayer be taken advantage of. Donald Trump's administration has always made clear that our priority is the American people's security. That's the job of all leaders, to put their people first. And we've seen how this
their people. His people is the Trumps.
Donald Trump has led even some Washington Democrats to agree on the Chinese threat, on trade deals that benefit America first, on alliances that share responsibility. In 4 years, Donald Trump didn't start any new wars. He brought troops home. He rebuilt the military and signed peace deals that make Americans safer. The Washington elites want you to think this kind of foreign policy is immoral, and so they call it nationalist.
Well, I mean, it is.
You need to know. The D.C. crowd thinks when they call Donald Trump a nationalist, they're insulting him.
Well, he should be.
The American president isn't supposed to base foreign policy on America's national interests.
That's just not what nationalism is.
A return to the Biden way of thinking means America gives the radical terrorist regime in Tehran a plane load of cash in the middle of the night. Well, you see, President Trump also sent an aircraft in the middle of the night to deal with Iran. But that plane was on a different mission. An airstrike to take out the head of Iran's terror machine who plotted the deaths of Americans. But we also must be clear that when those who seek freedom take tremendous personal risk in places like Hong Kong, Tehran, or Minsk, there is no doubt who President Trump's administration supports. We will always stand with the people who fight for their God-given freedoms. Don't be fooled. The Washington establishment is trying to sell you on their candidate. Joe Biden was first elected to the Senate in 1972, 48 years ago. Well, it's actually the typical Washington story. Just this year, 22 Democrats ran for president. They rejected all of the outsiders and nominated the ultimate Washington insider, someone they had to pull out of retirement. Every time Joe Biden offers a new idea, you should ask yourself, why didn't he try that over the last 48 years? Today, the Democrats blame a global pandemic that started in China on President Trump.
We don't blame the pandemic on Trump. We blame his response on him. Trump's poor response is what we blame on Trump. His it's going to disappear like a miracle. We blame that on Trump. Refusing to test. What he did recently with the CDC, which I'll talk about in the podcast, and will be on a new Fat Man Rant later on tonight. Stay tuned for that.
Who spoke up against it. They presented bogus information as facts. They lied to judges. Then they classified anything that undermined their case. And after Donald Trump won the election, when they should have continued the American tradition of helping the president-elect transition into the White House, they tried instead to undercut him even more. Former Vice President Joe Biden asked intelligence officials to uncover the hidden information on President Trump's incoming national security advisor 3 weeks before the inauguration. That's the Democrats. Between surveillance, classifications, leaks, and puppet candidates, they never want the American people to know who's actually calling the shots. But with Donald Trump, you always know exactly who is in charge. Because the answer is you. You're in charge.
Sure.
Not lobbyists, not special interests, not warmongers or China sympathizers or globalization fanatics. With Donald Trump and Mike Pence in the White House, the boss is the American people. President Trump rightly calls his foreign policy America First.
Which has racist undertones. Look up the history of America First, see who it panders to.
At the expense of another. It has no bias about red or blue, educated or not educated, urban or rural. America First is simply the belief that politicians should focus on the equality and dignity of every American, and that this duty is fulfilled by promoting the safety and wealth of the American people above all else. That's America First. That's the Trump doctrine. And that, my friends, is 4 more years.
Boo. Boo. Boo for Donald Trump. Boo.
By dawn's early light, millions of Americans give thanks for this land, our liberties, and those who defend it. That same pride inspired the words of our national anthem, penned here as the smoke of battle lifted over 2 centuries ago. When those American soldiers bravely fought and died, repelling the British onslaught, they did so not only for our people, which that flag represented, but for our principles, for which the flag stood, our God-given freedoms, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, equality under the law, government by the people. These are the threads that bind us together as Americans, for we are not a nation born of blood, but of belief. And even though that old flag has sometimes been battered and beaten, faded and forgotten, fired upon and set ablaze, there are heroes throughout our history who have picked up those tattered strands, mended them, and raised our flag anew. Just as the soldiers at Fort McHenry fought in defense of the beliefs that bind us today, there are new leaders who have devoted their life to do the same.
Greetings across the amber waves of grain. This is Mike Pence.
Across Indiana highways and homes, his voice warmly welcomed Hoosiers each morning. Mike Pence filled the radio waves with conservative commentary, guarding our American ideals. But much like the man who inspired him, Mike didn't grow up a Republican.
As President Reagan said, freedom is never more than 1 generation away from extinction.
His grandfather was a hard-working Irish immigrant who drove a bus to provide for his family. His father served our nation bravely in the Korean War and earned a Bronze Star. Mike was the 3rd of 6 children, raised here in Columbus, Indiana, with a cornfield in his backyard.
And he can't go anywhere without mother.
The foundation of America is freedom. And the foundation of freedom is faith.
It was in this small Indiana town his foundation of faith in Jesus Christ was laid. And from that conviction sprung his love of people and service to others. It was at a church service where Mike met the love of his life, Karen. They married and had
Of
3
course he
children,
married a Karen.
Michael, Charlotte, and Audrey.
I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican, in that order.
Mike became the president of a free market think tank, the host of a statewide conservative radio show, and then a congressman. In Washington, Mike quickly became known as a foremost defender of freedom. He led conservatives in the fight to protect our time-honored values of family, faith, life, liberty, and limited government.
Our nation's strength begins at home, because strong families make a strong America.
Mike earned the trust of the people of his state and became the 50th governor of Indiana. He delivered the largest state tax cut in Indiana history.
Just saw
expanded
somebody say that
school choice,
Hurricane Laura
led
might
the country in
has
manufacturing,
reached Category
and helped more
5.
Hoosiers get to work than ever before. But he wasn't through.
ABC News has learned that Donald Trump will choose Indiana Governor Mike Pence to be his running mate.
I would like to introduce a man who I truly
Because he needed the
believe
evangelicals.
will be the next
Because
Vice
Mr. Grab him by the hoo-ha
of the United
couldn't...
States, Governor Mike Pence.
As our vice president,
What's the
Mike
word I'm looking
Pence has
for?
held tightly to those
Couldn't
threads
fool
of freedom woven
the
through our
conservative
history.
Christians
Leading with
without
those principles alongside
so-called
President
conservative
Trump,
Christians.
Our nation experienced prosperity like never before.
He is solid as a rock. He's been a fantastic vice president.
And now, in these uncertain days, we are equipped to overcome. In times of trouble, some call to retreat from those ideals. But Americans throughout history have lifted them in triumph, hope, and resilience. Mike Pence knows those stars and stripes do not merely represent who we are, but more importantly, what we can be. As the sun rises again on America, we lift our eyes to those lofty truths, to guide our country and every one of us to greater heights. In this land of the free and home of the brave.
Land of the free and home of the Whopper.
Mike Pence.
Using another one of our nation's buildings as a prop. Oh, look! More no social distancing. This is going to be fun. We're going to be able to play...
Please welcome.
Check who's the corona's going to kill today.
Mike Pence.
Who the corona is going to kill.
Secondly, Mrs. Karen Pence.
Okay, Karen. What in the unseasoned name of Karen is this capacity? That's one of my Facebook groups. Let's see. No mask, no mask, no mask. 1, 2. No, look, all those no masks. None. No masks. Oh, they kissed and my cute. What if this is live? Is this live? Show the chairs. Show how far the chairs are not socially distanced. Yawn. That is not very socially distanced whatsoever.
Good evening, America. It's an honor to speak to you tonight from the hallowed grounds of Fort McHenry, the site of the very battle that inspired the words of our national anthem. Those words have inspired this land of heroes in every generation since. It was on this site 206 years ago when our young republic heroically withstood a ferocious naval bombardment from the most powerful empire on earth. They came to crush our revolution, to divide our nation, and to end the American experiment. The heroes who held this fort took their stand for life, liberty, freedom, and the American flag. And those ideals have defined our nation. But they were hardly ever mentioned at last week's Democratic National Convention. Instead, Democrats spent 4 days attacking America. Joe Biden said that
how'd they attack
we were
America?
through a season
Foolish.
of darkness. But as President Trump said, where Joe Biden sees American darkness, we see American greatness. In these challenging times, our country needs a president who believes in America.
He didn't believe in America. He didn't think America was great when he ran for president. He wanted to make America great again. That means he didn't think America was great.
And defend the freedoms we hold dear.
Now he can't make up his mind on
America
either.
needs 4 more years of President Donald Trump.
Like it
in
needs
the
a hole
White
in the
House.
head.
Before I go further, allow me to say a word to the families and communities in the path of Hurricane Laura.
It's about time.
Our prayers are with you tonight. And our administration is working closely with authorities in the states that will be impacted. FEMA has mobilized resources and supplies for those in harm's way. This is a serious storm, and we urge all those in the affected areas to heed state and local authorities. Stay safe. And
It's a little
know that
too
we'll
late
be
for
with you
that.
every step of the way to support,
He knew the authorities would have been left like
respond,
12 hours
and
ago.
recover in the days and weeks ahead. That's what Americans do. Four years ago, I answered the call to join this ticket because I knew that Donald Trump had the leadership and the vision to make America great again. And for the last 4 years, I've watched this president endure unrelenting attacks, but get up every day and fight to keep the promises that he made to the American people. So with gratitude for the confidence President Donald Trump has placed in me, the support of our Republican Party, and the grace of God, I humbly accept your nomination to run and serve as Vice President of the United States.
Oh, here we go again.
Serving the American
Like two
people
of
in
them.
this office has been a journey I never expected. It's a journey that would not have been possible without the support of my family, beginning with my wonderful wife, Karen. She's a lifelong school teacher, an incredible mother to our 3 children. And she is one outstanding Second Lady of the United States. I'm so proud.
She's sitting right now.
And we couldn't be more proud of our 3 children. Marine Corps Captain Michael J. Pence and his wife Sarah. Our daughter Charlotte Pence Bond, an author, and the wife to Lieutenant Henry Bond, who is currently deployed and serving our nation in the United States Navy.
Not
our
one
youngest,
mask.
a recent law
Not
school
one
grad.
mask. Coronavirus.
Our daughter Audrey and her fiance, who, like so many other Americans, had to delay their wedding this summer. But we can't wait for Dan to be a part of our family.
I'm not.
In addition, my wife and kids, the person who shaped my life the most is also with us.
Shaved my
tonight.
life.
My mom, Nancy.
As opposed to mother, who was Karen.
She is the daughter of an Irish immigrant, 87 years young. And Mom follows politics very closely. And the truth be told, sometimes I think I'm actually her second favorite candidate on the Trump-Pence ticket. Thank you, Mom. I love you. Over the past 4 years, I've had the privilege to work closely with our president. I've seen him when the cameras are off. Americans see President Trump in lots of different ways.
I want to see him in
But
one
there's
way
no
out
doubt
of the
how
Oval
President Trump
Office.
sees America. He sees America for what it is. A nation that has done more good in this world than any other. A nation that deserves far more gratitude than grievance. And if you want a president who falls silent when our heritage is demeaned or insulted, he's not your man. Now, we came by very different routes to this partnership. And some people think we're a little bit different.
I mean, I don't think Mike Pence has ever said
So
grabbed
I've
by the
learned a few
hoo-ha.
things watching him deal with all that we've been through over the past 4 years. He does things in his own way, on his own terms. Not much gets past him. And when he has an opinion, he's liable to share it. He's certainly kept things interesting. But more importantly, President Donald Trump has kept his word to the American people.
No, he hasn't. Who paid for the wall? He banned Muslims from entering the country like
In a
he said
city
he was
known
going to
for
do. All
talkers,
Muslims.
President Trump is a doer. And few presidents have brought more independence, energy, or determination to that office. 4 years ago, we inherited a military hollowed out by devastating budget cuts, an economy
Was not.
struggling to break out of the slowest recovery since the Great Depression. ISIS controlled a land
You inherited a
twice
booming
the size
economy.
of
What the hell are you
Pennsylvania.
talking about?
And we witnessed a steady assault
It's like they live on Earth
on our
too.
most cherished values, freedom of religion and the right to life. That's when President Donald Trump stepped in. And from day one, he kept his word. We rebuilt our military. This president signed the largest increase in our national defense
It was
since
not-
the days of Ronald Reagan and created the first
All you're
new
doing is
branch
giving
of
the
our
military-industrial
armed
complex
forces
more
in
money.
70 years, the United States Space Force.
Space farce.
And with that renewed energy, we also returned American astronauts to space on an American rocket for the first time in nearly 10 years.
On a private rocket.
And after years of scandal that robbed our veterans of the care that you earned in the uniform of the United States, President Trump kept his word again. We reformed the VA, and Veterans Choice is now available for every veteran in America. Our armed forces and our veterans fill this land of heroes. And many join us tonight in this historic fort.
I hope they're masked up.
Tonight
Hope you're
we have
protecting
among
them.
us four
Oh, no.
recipients of the
There's
Medal
one
of
mask. A chin mask, but it's a mask nonetheless. Still doesn't do any good.
6 recipients of the Purple Heart.
And they're all gonna die because you're irresponsible, selfish douchebags who won't wear
Gold
freaking
Star
masks.
Of a gallant Navy SEAL. And wounded warriors from Soldier Strong, a group that serves our injured veterans every day. We are honored by your presence, and we thank you for your service.
Coronavirus loves the Republican National Convention.
With heroes just like these, we defend this nation every day. And under this commander-in-chief, we've taken the fight to radical Islamic terrorists on our terms, on their soil.
On their terms,
Last year,
on our
American
soil.
armed forces took the last inch of ISIS territory, crushed their caliphate, and took down their leader without one American casualty. And I was there when President Trump gave the order to take out the world's most dangerous terrorist. Iran's top general will never harm another American because Qasem Soleimani is gone. My fellow Americans, you deserve to know. Joe Biden criticized President Trump following those decisions. Decisions to rid the world of two terrorist leaders. But it's not surprising, because history records that Joe Biden even opposed the operation that took down Osama bin Laden. It's no wonder that the Secretary of Defense under the Obama-Biden administration once said that Joe Biden has been, and I quote, wrong on nearly every major foreign policy and national security issue over the past 4 decades. So we've stood up to our enemies, and we've stood with our allies.
No, we haven't.
Like when President
We
Trump
ceded
kept his word,
control in the Middle East to
moved the
Russia.
American embassy to
We
Jerusalem, the
acted
capital
against NATO,
of the State of Israel.
and we helped to escalate issues in Israel by moving the embassy.
26 years. Closer to home, we appointed more than 200 conservative judges to our federal courts. We supported the right to life and all the God-given liberties enshrined in our Constitution, including the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. And when it came to the economy,
Except for
President
like when
Trump
black
kept his
people try
word
and
and
openly
then
carry,
some.
then you criticize it.
we passed the largest tax cut and reform in American history. We rolled back more federal red tape than any administration ever had. We unleashed American energy and fought for free and fair trade. And in our first 3 years, businesses large and small created more than 7 million good-paying jobs, including 500,000 manufacturing jobs all across America. Our country became a net exporter of energy for the first time in 70 years. Unemployment rates for African Americans and Hispanic Americans hit the lowest level ever recorded. And on this 100th anniversary,
Thank you to the Obama economy that
the
you
woman's right to
inherited and
vote.
that you are squandering.
I'm proud to report
You're making it worse
that under
because you
President
won't
Donald
react
Trump,
to
we
the
achieved the lowest
COVID-19
unemployment rate for
pandemic
women
reasonably
in
and correctly.
65 years. And more Americans working than ever before. In our first 3 years, we built the greatest economy in the world. We made America great again.
So then why is your campaign slogan still Make America Great Again?
Then
Again.
the coronavirus struck from China. Before the first case of the coronavirus spread within the United States,
That you know of.
the president took unprecedented action and suspended all
Was
travel.
probably already here.
The second largest economy.
Hold on, let me see. When was that?
Now that action saved untold American lives. And I can tell you firsthand, it bought us invaluable time to launch the greatest national mobilization since World War II. President Trump marshaled the full resources of our federal government from the outset.
His decision was January 31st. I am convinced that I had it on January 29th.
Across America.
So, sorry, it was already here. It was very likely already here. His ban was too late, and his rest of his response was ineffectual, ineffective, and has killed tens of thousands more Americans in this country than needed to because he didn't want to test.
800,000 tests a day.
Because he's an idiot.
We have coordinated the delivery of billions of pieces of personal protective equipment for
But
our
you're not doing enough
amazing
testing.
doctors, nurses,
The
and
the
healthcare
testing that you need to do to get a handle on this virus. oh, but if we do more testing, we'll have more
We saw that
cases.
the
No, we have the
manufacture of
cases.
100,000
It will reveal those cases. And we'll be able to deal with those cases better because
No
you'll
one
have
who
more
required a
information.
ventilator was ever denied a ventilator in the United States. We built hospitals, surged military medical personnel, and enacted an economic rescue package that saved 50 million American jobs. As we speak, we're developing a growing number of treatments known as therapeutics, including convalescent plasma that are
At least he
saving
says it
lives
right.
across America. Now, last week, Joe Biden said that no miracle is coming. Well, what Joe doesn't seem to understand is that America is a nation of miracles.
That's why we're going to fail at the COVID-19, because you trust
And I'm
miracles
proud
and
to
not
report that
science.
we're on track to have
Science.
the world's
I've ever heard
first
you
safe,
speak it.
effective coronavirus
No,
vaccine
you
by
don't
the
know.
end of this year.
We're going to rush it, because it'll be November 2nd, we announce it, and then it'll fail miserably.
After all the sacrifice in this year like no other, and all the hardship, we're finding our way forward again. But tonight, our hearts are with all the families who've lost loved ones and have family members still struggling with serious illness.
And we'll continue to do so because you
In
won't
this country, we mourn
respond to
with
this
those who mourn,
properly.
we grieve with those who grieve. And this night, I know that millions of Americans will pause and pray for God's comfort for each of you. You know, our country doesn't get through such a time unless its people find strength within. The response of doctors, nurses, first responders, farmers, factory workers, truckers, and everyday Americans who put the health and safety of their neighbors first has been nothing short of heroic. Veronica Sayez put on her scrubs every day. Day in and day out, went to work in one of New York City's busiest hospitals. She stayed on the job, put in the long hours until it was done, and then got back in her neighborhood and helped neighbors and friends struggling. Her brother William is a New York City firefighter. And they're both emblematic of heroes all across this country.
I think somebody's just said something
They're with us
of...
tonight. And I say to them and to all of you, you have earned the admiration of the American people, and we will always be grateful for your service and care.
I think one of the people who spoke tonight was guilty of insider trading. Is that true?
Thanks to the courage and compassion of the American people, we're slowing the spread. We're protecting the vulnerable. And we're saving lives. And we're opening up America again. Because of the strong foundation that President Trump poured in our first 3 years.
Is it Alma?
We've
Open up
already
America
gained back
again?
9.3 million jobs in the last 3 months alone. And we're not just opening up America again. We're opening up America's schools. And I'm proud to report
Here we go,
that my
school
wife, Karen,
choice.
that school teacher I've been married to, will be returning to her classroom next week. And so to all of our heroic teachers and faculty,
To catch the coronavirus, because kids are
thank
not
you
stoppers,
for
they're
being
spreaders.
there for our kids. We're going to stay with you every step
We
of the way.
need to distance learn. It's a pain. Trust me, I know. We have 2 kids distance learning right now. It is a pain, but it needs to happen
In the days
because you
ahead,
need
as
to
we
protect
open
the
up
children and
America
protect the
again,
families.
I promise you. We'll continue to put the health of America first. And as we work to bring this economy back, we all have a role to play. And we all have a choice to make. On November 3rd, you need to ask yourself, who do you trust to rebuild this economy?
Joe Biden. I can answer that right now.
Who presided over the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression? Or a proven leader
who's going to hand away everything to billionaires and going to turn the country upside down and shake the couch for loose change so he can put it in his pockets?
All the way back, we need 4 more years of President Donald Trump
No, we
in
don't.
the White House. My fellow Americans, were passing through a time of testing. But in the midst of this global pandemic, just as our nation had begun to recover, we've seen violence and chaos in the streets of our major cities. President Trump and I will always support the right of Americans to peaceful protest.
Yeah, that's why you tear gassed. He tear gassed them. You're a hypocrite. He tear gassed them to go take a photo op by a damn church.
To the fullest extent of the law. Last week, Joe Biden didn't say one word about the violence and chaos engulfing cities across this country. So let me be clear. The violence must stop, whether in Minneapolis, Portland, or Kenosha. Too many heroes have died defending our freedom to see Americans strike each other down. We will have law and order on the streets
here we go.
of this
Law and
country
order.
for every American of every race and creed and color.
Law and order for every American, not for every person resident. Oh, look at that poor kid. Oh, there was one person in a mask who brought their kid too, maybe, and, well, you know, they're going to get the coronavirus.
President Trump and I know that the men and women that put on the uniform of law enforcement are the best of us. Every day.
Except for the ones who shoot people in the back,
they walk out the
who are
door,
going
they
running
consider
away.
Our lives more important than their own. People like Dave Patrick Underwood, an officer in the Department of Homeland Security's Federal Protective Service, who was shot and killed during the riots in Oakland, California. Dave's heroism is emblematic of the heroes that serve in blue every day. And we're privileged tonight to be joined by his sister, Angela. Angela, we say to you, we grieve with your family. And America will never forget or fail to honor Officer Dave Patrick Underwood. The American people know we don't have to choose between supporting
Apparently,
law
Laura
enforcement
is still a Cat 4, not a Cat 5.
and standing with our African American neighbors
But is very strong.
to improve the quality of their lives, education, jobs, and safety. And from the first days of this administration, we've done both. And we will keep supporting law enforcement and keep supporting our African American and minority communities across this land for 4 more years.
It's not a very resounding applause there. Again, just like I showed the other day.
Now, Joe Biden says that America is systemically racist.
There is systemic
and that law
racism.
enforcement in America has, and I quote, an implicit bias against minorities. When asked whether he'd support cutting funding to law enforcement, Joe Biden replied, yes, absolutely. Joe Biden would double down on the very policies that are leading to violence in America's
See,
cities.
the defund thing, again, you don't understand defund.
The hard truth is, you won't be safe in Joe Biden's America.
That's
And under
such a
President
crock.
Trump, we will always stand with those who stand on the thin blue line, and we're not going to defund the police, not now, not ever.
Defund does not mean remove all funds like you're claiming that it does. So shut up.
My fellow Americans, we're passing through a time of testing, but soon we will come to a time for choosing. Joe Biden has referred to himself as a transition.
And according to ABC News, despite the squabbling, both candidates have clearly stated they do not agree with calls to defund the police. So again, you're lying, and if you're drinking and you're not passed out yet for taking a shot for every lie, take another shot.
I mean, Bernie Sanders did tell his followers that Joe Biden would be the most liberal president in modern times. In fact, he said, and I quote, that many of the ideas he fought for, that just a few years ago were considered radical, are now mainstream.
Paid for by Joe Biden for president. Biden-Harris
At the root
2020.
of their agenda is the belief that America is driven by envy, not aspiration. That millions of Americans harbor ill will toward our neighbors, instead of loving our neighbors as ourselves. The radical left believes that the federal government must be involved in every aspect of our lives to correct those American wrongs. They believe the federal government needs to dictate how Americans live, how we should work, how we should raise our children, and in the process deprive our people of freedom, prosperity, and security. Their agenda is based on government control.
Unlike the Republicans who want to control the vagina.
Freedom.
Unless you're gay, unless you're a woman, unless you're a black person trying to vote, or a black person getting shot in the back, and you're a bootlicking apologist for police bad
Where this
actions.
president achieved energy independence for the United States, Joe Biden would abolish fossil fuels, end fracking, and impose a regime of climate change regulations that would drastically increase the cost of living for working families. Where we fought for free and fair trade, and this president stood up to China and ended the era of economic surrender, Joe Biden has been a cheerleader for communist China. He wants to repeal all the tariffs that are leveling the playing field.
I can't wait
for
to see the
American
debates,
workers.
honestly. I mean,
And he actually
Trump and Pence are going to get
criticized
owned. Not that
President
owning
Trump for
Trump, I mean,
suspending
Hillary
all
owned
travel
Trump
to
in the
China
debates too. It
and
doesn't
the
mean
outside
anything, but as a personal,
Joe
as
Biden is
just
for open
I
borders,
just want to see him crushed.
sanctuary cities,
Both Pence
free
and
lawyers
Trump
and
just
health care
crushed.
for illegal immigrants. And President Trump, he secured our border and built nearly 300 miles of that border wall.
So he didn't build the wall that he promised he would build.
Joe Biden wants to end school choice.
Because it's not about choice, it's about giving away to private things. And we don't have school choice, we have a lottery.
To school, regardless of their income or area code. President Trump has stood without apology for the sanctity of human life every day of this administration. Joe Biden, he supports taxpayer funding of abortion.
Good.
Right up to the moment of birth.
You can't really fund much when it comes to abortions, but federal health care plan should cover an abortion, especially in cases where, the woman's health and life is at danger, or the person was
The
raped.
election has never been clearer, and the stakes have never been higher. Last week, Joe Biden said democracy's on the ballot. And the truth is, our economic recovery is on the ballot.
Our economic recovery is going to go in the toilet once we get more cases of COVID, because people won't socially distance, and you won't set an example.
In
Look at all
this
these people
election,
who are not wearing masks, not socially
not so
distanced.
much whether
You are not
America
setting
will
an
be more
example that you should.
conservative or
Because
more
there is an example that you should be setting
more Republican
as vice
or more
president and president of this country, and you're not
choice in
doing
this
it
election
because you don't want to
is
be
whether America
inconvenienced.
remains America. It's whether we will leave to our children and our grandchildren a country grounded in our highest ideals of freedom, free markets, and the unalienable right to life and liberty, or whether we will leave them a country that's fundamentally transformed into something else. We stand at a crossroads, America. President Trump has set our nation on a path of freedom and opportunity. Joe Biden would set America on a path of socialism and decline. But we're not going to let it happen.
Not gone dead. Not gone dead.
President Donald Trump believes in America and in the goodness of the American people. The boundless potential of every American to live out their dreams in freedom. And every day, President Trump has been fighting to protect the promise of America. Every day, our president has been fighting to expand the reach of the American dream. Every day, President Donald Trump has been fighting for you. And now it's our turn to fight for him. On this night, in the company of heroes, I'm deeply grateful. Deeply grateful for the privilege of serving as Vice President of this great nation and to have the opportunity to serve again. I pray to be worthy of it, and I will give that duty all that's in me. In the year 2020, the American people have had more than our share of challenges. But thankfully, we have a president with the toughness, energy, and resolve to see us through. Now, those traits actually run in our national character. As the invading force learned on approach to this fort in September of 1814, against fierce and sustained bombardment, our young country was defended by heroes, not so different from those who are with us tonight. The enemy was counting on them to quit, but they never did. Fort McHenry held, and when morning came, our flag was still here.
You can read, look at that.
My fellow Americans,
Fellow Americans.
we're going through a time of testing.
We're not. That's the problem. We're not being tested enough.
Times, you will see. Our flag is still there today. That star-spangled banner still waves over the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Land of the free and the home of the whopper.
From these hallowed grounds, American patriots in generations gone by did their part to defend freedom. Now it's our turn. So let's run the race marked out for us.
Freedom.
Let's fix our eyes on Old Glory and all she represents. Let's fix our eyes on this land of heroes and let their courage inspire.
I can't wait for the
And let's fix our eyes on the
mess that will be his Trump's speech tomorrow.
of our faith
That's going to be
and
the
our freedom.
best,
And
or
never
if not
forget
the worst.
that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. That means freedom always wins. My fellow Americans, thank you for the honor of addressing you tonight. and the opportunity to run and serve again as your
We will start the podcast as soon as they take off the cameras off the crowd, because I want to see the crowd with all of their non-masking.
That we will do in our time,
Trump Pence
as
unmasked.
Americans have done throughout our long and storied past. We will defend our freedom and our way of life. We will re-elect our president and principled Republican leaders across the land. And with President Donald Trump in the White House for 4 more years, and with God's help, we will make America great again. Again.
Make America great again, again. He actually said it.
Bless you. And God
He
bless you,
actually
United
said,
States.
make America great again, again. People have been mocking them for that, and he actually said, make America great again, again. My God. Lady, my God. It's like, I can't believe he's... Oh, it's the surprise. Ooh, we get the surprise of Donald Trump coming out. Oh, they're so excited. You gonna speak again? They're so stupid. They're so stupid. It's not a lot of cheering. It's not very lot of...
Perform our national anthem. Please welcome country music superstar Trace Atkins.
Am I gonna get it? Is this gonna be the first ding that I get? Because it's got Trace Atkins singing Star Spangled Banner.
Oh, say, can you see
boys.
by the dawn's
I didn't go deep enough.
What
That's not
so
what she said.
proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night.
How many O's are gonna be there because you're in Maryland, you're in Baltimore?
Was still
Oh! Nobody said it. Maybe one did.
O'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Let's see. That could get a copyright ding, maybe. Look at all that. No mask. 1, 2, 3. All of them in a row. Not socially distanced. No masking going on. They're all gonna die. It's weird that they ended it on the Star Spangled Banner instead of starting it with the Star Spangled Banner. That is definitely a strange thing. We'll be doing most of the commentary about tonight and other things on the podcast, which will start shortly, but oh look, Donald Trump's going out into the crowd and he's going to start spreading the virus. There's a barrier. Nobody wearing a mask. Nobody wearing a mask. All of these people that he's using as props. That he's going to get sick because somebody there is likely to have COVID-19 and they're going to spread it amongst other. Lack of social distancing. It's just, how many of those people, and look, these people are veterans, they're deserving of respect and honors, and they're not deserving to catch the Rona. And if any of them catch the coronavirus because they're there at this event, everyone should hold Donald Trump responsible for not taking this seriously. Look at all those no masks. No masks whatsoever. Podcast will start in a few minutes. I am just mocking RNC for no masks and lack of social distancing. Paste the picture there, because holy crap. Only in America! No, they're all, look at how bad. This is worse than two masks, three total masks in that one shot. There's one guy with a chin mask. Oh God, he's taking a selfie. A socially distanced selfie. He's socially distanced. They're not. They're all clamoring all over each other to try and get a piece of his orange sweat. Are they telling him to stay distant, stay 6 feet away? They're keeping the president socially distanced because they don't want him catching it. Let's see, one. It's the same guy with the American flag one. At least a good 25, 30, maybe even 40 people in that shot, and only one person wearing a mask, and everyone is all completely... That's one drinking game where you'll stay sober. Drink at how many masks you see at a Trump-Pence campaign event. Oh, there's another one. There's a third one. Let's see, and I am not counting the chin masks. But I saw 4 total. Someone's getting sick tonight, or in 2 weeks. Melania's like, can we please go? I don't want to catch the COVID. I don't want to catch coronavirus. COVID-19. Oh, we got to do the photo op. The non-socially distanced photo op. Look at all those. There's a couple more people. I think I saw the guy with the black mask before. I think there's 5 total. 5 total masks in this shot. I swear. There's the same guy with the other twins. I mean that is the typical Republican uniform, isn't it? I'm surprised Trump isn't wearing the red tie. 3-4 rows of people all clumped together. This is not what you call setting an example as a president of what you're supposed to be doing with this COVID-19 virus. He does not give two rat's patoots about whether or not these people get sick or not. It's all about him. Trump Harris, that's a weird shirt. I'm guessing it's a different Harris and not Kamala Harris. I will give Marsha Blackburn credit for one particular thing. She did pronounce Senator Harris's first name correctly. She did call her Kamala Harris. I will give her that bit. At least she wasn't racist in that aspect. Is that a mask? But I don't know if does the media count as the mask people? I'm holding onto my wife's hand because she can't let go because she doesn't like to be seen with me because I had an affair on her with porn stars and pay them hush money. But you know. I'm sure I'm going to be getting a copyright ding on this one again because they're going to be playing the Only in America. Hopefully the other background noise, maybe that'll block it, but this will be the first ding in a while. Only in America. Yeehaw! Somebody just told me they just said over 100,000 people didn't leave their homes at this point to write their names and social security numbers and addresses on their arms. That's just terrifying. Alright, I think that's enough mocking of the mask list today, so let's go ahead and pause that and just say, look, thank you very much for those of you who are still watching it. Thank you so much for watching the live stream. We have 11 views today. Not horrible, not the best. I would love to see more, but it is what it is. It is what it is. And I'm flipping right over to the podcast right now within a minute. So if you're watching now and you want to continue on, you want to discuss the issues, you can call in there as well. So let's go ahead and get that started with the connecting as well, as we'll stop the streaming. Thank you very much and have a good rest of your night. Stay safe, stay healthy, mask up, and tune in to Blog Talk Radio.